This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 619. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. I am actually not doing great. I'm kind of going through some stuff emotionally, and I feel like I always am. Your boy Zach, this time of year, I get to November, I'm tired, I'm doing too much, and I always got something going on. I love you guys, and if you're struggling, go get help. I encourage you. You know, like I said, we all struggle, we all go through stuff. The job is great. I got off work really late tonight. The podcasting plumber, doing pretty well. I actually love plumbing. I'm shocked. Everyone tells me it's a crappy job. You get the joke there. And actually, I really like solving problems. I like snaking drains. I like fixing sinks. It's actually like problem solving and fun for me. And I like learning new stuff. So anyway, I want to start today's episode with actually a write-in from Patreon. Patreon.com/Zach Schaumler is where you can support the show. If you want to, remember at the end of every show, I read a bunch of questions from Patreon. But today, I thought we'd do like a little warm-up for the show. Have some fun here. Jake wrote in, totally non-sports related, says, if you could merge two animals to create one mega animal, what would you create and why? Jake further, his insanity further states, I would combine a spider with a bear, creating a bear-sized, angry, territorial, but protective spider. When certain breeds of spiders get too old, they can't create webs anymore. Instead, they end up producing a milk from their eggs that has way more nutrients and proteins than normal milk. I'd keep my spider bear as a pet until he got old. Then I'd collect all of his milk. Bro, you realize how that sounds. Then I would collect all of his milk and sell it for a bunch of money. And then spend the profits on an extravagant, modern, Viking-style funeral for my spider bear, sending him off on a flaming cruise ship. Sorry, I'm running on an hour of sleep, and this is the kind of dumb stuff I think about when I'm tired and trying to keep myself awake. That was Unhinged and amazing. And Jake, I love you, man. Jake is actually in our fantasy football league. And Jake, for people who don't know and don't listen to this episode, Jake came on the show. Jake is a guy who dropped out he shared this publicly so I can share it. He talked about it already in the show. If you missed it, it's a great story. He dropped out of high school to help his family financially, get a job. He went back after, way later, got his GED. He just started college this semester. I'm so happy. I'm proud of the guy. Moving ahead in life. I don't even have a college degree. It's really hard to get your act together and be an adult. And Jake, love you, man. I love that this is the kind of question, these are the hard-hitting questions people need to ask me. What two animals would you combine if you could? It's insane. And the fact you talked about producing milk, I never heard of that. I can't believe, although your story went very wholesome, you said you would spend the money not on a cruise ship, not on wild stuff, not buying a house. No, you have very humble motivation. You want to give your really cool bear spider thing a Viking funeral, which that's how you want to spend that money. I love you, man. That is so wholesome and in a weird way. And what's really funny about this, I read your question. I was like, I got to talk about combining two animals, but I didn't read the rest of it. Somehow I trust you and I know it's good. Producing milk really threw me off. I was like, whoa. I think the obvious answer here, very clearly, Jake, I don't know what you're talking about, a bear and a spider. The obvious answer, if you could combine two animals, is a bird and an octopus. That thing would rule the world. That's a terrifying thought. Actually, we're lucky octopuses aren't a little bit smarter because I watch videos of them already, and they're breaking into stuff. They're solving puzzles. We're lucky they don't want to build things because if they did, we would be in trouble. So octopus already are octopusi. I don't know how to say it. I know the plural is octopussy, which I can't feel it doesn't feel right saying that on a podcast that's supposed to not be explicit. So the octopuses, if they could fly, again, I encourage you, watch videos of octopuses fitting through really tight spaces, and then imagine that creature had wings and could also fly. So if it's a bird and an octopus, I'm imagining a creature that both can breathe air and water and go in and out of the water. It can fly, it can swim, it can crawl because they run around on the beach. They literally have little legs and they can run really quickly. That would be the most horrifying and scary creature that would be unstoppable. It would rule the world. I really believe that. If I could combine two animals, maybe I should. Maybe that they would have too much power, but a bird and an octopus. Now, what kind of bird? Because again, octopuses are like, they not only can fit through crazy stuff and they're really smart, they can camouflage like crazy. They can make themselves look like rocks. I've seen an octopus in the ocean. I thought it was a rock until it moved, and I was like, whoa. And now every rock I look at in the ocean, I'm like, is that actually a rock? Is that maybe an octopus? I don't know. You never know. You can't really trust these rocks because they could just get up and run away, literally. So imagine that creature with the ability to fly. Now, what kind of bird? Would we want a big bird or a small bird? Like, I wasn't imagining like an ostrich, right? I wanted something that could fly. It's like badass and cool. Maybe like a bald eagle octopus. Someone, does anyone in the audience make AI art? Because that's a thing I want you to combine. Ask an AI, Logan, homework for you. Logan, you're out there. By the way, sidetrack, but I was going to say this at the top of the show. Logan, I'm going to text you tonight, I hope, if I remember. If I forget to text you, you should text me, because we need to talk about something. I've got an idea, and I know you listen to the show, so reach out to me if I don't reach out to you. We need to get in touch, because I got an idea we need to talk about. Anyway, a bird octopus would be crazy. What kind of bird? Probably a bald eagle. What I was saying, though, is if you make AI art, somebody ask an AI engine to show me an image of what a bird and an octopus would look like combined. I want to know, like, I want to see like 50 different examples of all the variations it could be, the horrifying beauty that it could be. All right, I feel warmed up. That's the energy I want to bring to the show today. Frankly, every week, if we could get once a week, like a crazy unhinged write-in with like a wild question, I think that would be like a really fun way to open the show. And, I love that idea. I want to real quick also say song of the week. It's My Home by Miles Smith. I highly encourage you, I highly recommend you listen to it. My Home by Miles Smith. He's got another song solo I really like, but I was on the Pally Highway driving to a job. It was raining cats and dogs. We could barely see me and my partner like driving to go fix this lady's house. And I've been missing home. I've been missing my people a lot. I've been very lonely, actually. And this song really like hit for me. I was like, oh, yeah. That makes sense. Anyway, before we get into sports, I do apologize. Apologize, the wrong word here. We got to pay the bills. So, I got to tell you about our sponsor today. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks allows you to make an entry based on player projections, and in 60 seconds, you could enter something like George Kittle, less than 5 catches, A.J. Brown, more than 100 yards receiving, and Jordan Love, more than 2 interceptions. And if your picks are right, you can win money. Making picks makes watching games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. Prize Picks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay, and they have weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts. For example, there's a weekly event called Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. So put your skills to the test in daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. So you put in $100, they'll give you $100 more to spend, basically, is how that works. Prize Picks. Daily fantasy made easy. All right. Let's go all the way back to Thursday, actually, to start the show today. How long are we in? We're like 15 minutes in. That's the show now. We're going to have fun with it. I refuse to. Here's the thing. I am a guy who, I'm a full-time plumber. I work a lot. If I'm going to do this show once a week, I have to have fun doing it. I have to. And that's the energy of the show. If you hate it, I apologize. But I think these really important questions we need to ask. If we could combine 2 animals, which 2 would we combine? That's a question the world is dying to know. We can't overlook that question. It's the most fundamental, most important thing. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. Let's jump in. On Thursday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens beat the Cincinnati Bengals 34-20. I want to say, first of all, it was a good win for Baltimore. They're 8-3 now. And I maintain that Baltimore looks like a Super Bowl contender. However, the big story from this football game, very clearly, is that Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow got hurt. He's now out for the year. He tore a ligament in his wrist. And I watched the video. I was watching the game, and you look back and watch that video over and over. And he's trying to throw the ball, and the ball falls out of his hand. Joe Burrow literally couldn't throw a football. The season's over. It's really sad. He's going to need surgery. I think he's already had it. I think, actually, I don't even know. I haven't been keeping track of Joe Burrow. He got hurt. He's out. That's what I know. I've been tracking. Like, I'm not going to update you on his injury, like his surgery, the date, and what doctor did it. I don't feel like it's relevant. We know he's out for the year. It's very sad. It's been a really wild year for Joe Burrow, actually. He started the year with a calf injury. Then he finally got back to full strength and was playing well. But now he's hurt again and out for the year. And of course, this injury comes right after signing a massive 5-year, $275 million contract. It's worth noting Joe Burrow this is now year 4 in the NFL. And it's his second season-ending injury. Remember, he tore his ACL his rookie year in 2020. So 2020 was out for the year, played the last 2 years full. Then this year got hurt again, out for the year. He's been hurt, but he's also been hit a lot. I saw a stat that Joe Burrow's basically been sacked more than Andrew Luck was in the same amount of time. And you're like, whoa, really? Joe Burrow's been sacked more than Andrew Luck was in the short amount of time of their careers been so far, like the first 4 years or however many games it was. And it's like, that's a horrifying reality. That Joe Burrow is getting hit more frequently than Andrew Luck, who retired early. Joe Burrow doesn't come across like the kind of guy who's going to walk away from football until they literally say, hey, sorry, you're done. We're not letting you play anymore. He's going to play like Brett Favre, where maybe, I guess Brett Favre retired. Who got kicked out? Peyton Manning basically was like, I'm going to play until they don't need me anymore. They benched him. He came back. He won a Super Bowl. And he's like, okay, clearly the league is done with me, but I'm glad to leave on top. I think that's going to be Joe Burrow's arc as a human. But what's really sad is the Bengals season is over. They had a bad start to the year. Then they won 4 in a row at one point, but now without Joe Burrow, the season and the year isn't going anywhere for them. They're 5-5 right now. Their starting quarterback is Jake Browning from Washington. And, oh boy, good luck, man. It was a fun, I will say, the 10 games we saw from the Bengals this year, other than the last one where Joe Burrow got hurt, that was just sad. The first 9 games were like just the most wild roller coaster ride. Up and down and horrible start. Then they kind of got fired and like, maybe they're going to turn this around. And now, just like that, it's over. And it's very sad. Now, there was another season-ending injury. Literally right after recording the episode last week, news broke that Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson is hurt and out for the year. This is very old news now, let's be clear. This has been out there for a while. Literally like right as the show came out last week on Wednesday morning, the news broke and I was like, well, I'm like literally at work as a plumber. I'm like, I'm not going to go back and like record a pickup after work and then re-upload. I'm like, we'll talk about it next week. Deshaun Watson apparently has a fracture in his throwing shoulder. So he needs surgery. I did see, unlike Joe Burrow, he had surgery in LA. It went well. He's expected to make a full recovery next year. It's brutal. I think the Cleveland Browns are a team that they're ready to win a Super Bowl. Quite frankly, their defense is incredible. They've got playmakers everywhere. They just can't get a quarterback to play well or even stay healthy. And now Deshaun Watson is out for the year. But let me just say, and I am the last person who's going to go out of his way to defend Deshaun Watson. Let's be very clear. I want to be, that's not the energy I'm trying to bring to the table. But given the way Baker Mayfield, the former Cleveland Browns quarterback, was treated, I understand why Deshaun Watson would say, hey, I'm comfortable walking away. First of all, he's making a ton of money. But second of all, Baker Mayfield did play hurt his final year in Cleveland. And you know what they did to repay him for his tenacity, his fight, his dedication to the team? They got rid of him, right? They said, you played bad. We don't care why. We're going to replace you with Deshaun Watson, who's got all kinds of problems off the field. What did we learn from Baker Mayfield's time in Cleveland? By the way, Baker Mayfield never missed a start for 2 years, right? Say what you want about Baker. You love him, you hate him. The dude showed up to work and did his best every single day. You literally cannot disagree on that one thing. You may not have liked what he did. You may not have liked the way he carried himself, but you cannot disagree that Baker appeared to really, truly give his heart and soul to the Cleveland Browns. And what happened? They got rid of him. So after that lesson, why would any quarterback for the Cleveland Browns go, yeah, I'm going to play hurt? You know how, I should probably go get surgery when Baker probably should have got surgery, but that didn't work for him, so why would they give me the same treatment? So we all clown on Deshaun Watson for having a massive contract, guaranteed, and maybe he doesn't want to play. That's possible, man. But in this situation, he is right to go get surgery, go get healthy. I don't know how long his career is going to be. Right? He had like one good game this year. It was great against Tennessee. But if he wants to have longevity in his career, he's got to get surgery on his throwing shoulder. And the Browns have not earned the right to ask any quarterback to play through an injury based on the way they treated their last quarterback who played through an injury, in my opinion. So that needs to be said. Love Deshaun Watson or not, what's really bothering me, really the crux of this issue is the way the Browns treated Baker Mayfield. Right? That's the story here. And you got to learn from that. Let's also acknowledge the fact, though, Deshaun Watson signed a 5-year, $230 million contract, fully guaranteed. All that money is going right into his bank account other than the probably massive amount that's getting taken out by the U.S. government. God bless them. Someone's got to build tanks. And so that contract so far has been a disaster. Right? You gave him all this money. He played in only 6 games last year because he had a suspension. But we knew that was going to happen. But then this year, he played in only 6 games again. Got hurt, out for the year. Again, Deshaun had basically one good game, against Tennessee this year. Got hurt, missed some time. Again, the contract so far has been a monumental failure for the Cleveland Browns. We'll see how next year goes. Maybe Deshaun Watson comes back and is incredible next year. I kind of, not for his sake, but for the sake of the Browns fans and the players in Cleveland who are all, their team is ready to win, man. Their team, God dang it, man. Like they're going to make the playoffs and have a rookie quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, doing his best every week. Like this team is so clearly ready to win. They just can't get high-level quarterback play. So from that perspective, I'm hoping Deshaun can come back and be good just because I hate missed opportunities in life. It's really crappy. But also, if it's going to happen to anyone, the Browns, given their decision to invest in Deshaun Watson, given their lack of loyalty to Baker Mayfield, it's hard to feel bad for Cleveland, right? You're like, oh, the team that kind of sold their souls and treated people like crap and didn't have any morals. If that's going to happen to any organization and they're going to miss out on a huge opportunity, it might as well be Cleveland. They already had their moment. They won a playoff game with Baker. That was a cool moment. And then I think everyone's energy in the NFL fan base and the NFL community was like, well, we saw Cleveland do something cool. And, they won a playoff game in my lifetime. I never thought they would. Now I don't care. They can suck the rest of my life. I saw them win one playoff game. That's enough for me. So I don't know. They're no longer the little engine that could, I guess I'm trying to say. All that energy now is shifted to Detroit. Detroit's now the underdog we want to see win a playoff game and do well. So, again, it is unfortunate, man, because it's a missed opportunity. The Cleveland Browns very clearly have a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, I'm not sure they would have won a Super Bowl even with Deshaun Watson because he wasn't exactly killing it. But he did have a shoulder injury, apparently, and again, so far 2 years into that contract, it looks awful. By the way, here's the list of starting quarterbacks this year in the NFL that are hurt and out for the year. With a caveat, there's one guy. Aaron Rodgers may come back. He tore his Achilles 4 snaps into the first game against Buffalo. It seems unlikely given how the Jets' record is right now and given the way the year is going for the Jets. Aaron's not going to come back to a team that has no shot at making a playoff game. But Aaron's out for the year. Joe Burrow's out for the year. Deshaun Watson's out for the year. Kirk Cousins is out for the year. Daniel Jones is out for the year. And Anthony Richardson is out for the year. That's a lot of quarterbacks. You ask why, often I even complain about how it's annoying that quarterbacks are as protected as they are, right? It's very frustrating. You're like, how is that roughing the passer, right? That's a legal hit. My entire life I played football. That was a legal hit. And then now you're like, you can't do that. But here's why. Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, and Aaron Rodgers. You got to have starting quarterbacks healthy and available to play every week. And if you don't, that's a problem. This is why the NFL has extreme protection from the rules for NFL quarterbacks, right? They financially, for entertainment's sake, all the above. Every reason you can think of, you got to have a starting quarterback playing on Sunday. Backup quarterbacks don't make me want to watch football, man. It really doesn't. I'll tell you what, the Browns-Steelers game this week, watching 2 backup quarterbacks, Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Kenny Pickett, I know shots fired. because I just called, Kenny Pickett a backup. It was brutal. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. I want to watch high-level quarterback play. And so next time you want to ridicule the NFL for the rules and the way they're changing football, just remember that they can't even keep the guys they want healthy with the rules protecting them. Imagine if the rules weren't changed to protect quarterbacks, how many more starting quarterbacks might be injured. And, when next time I get mad about the rules in the NFL, I'm going to remind myself, well, we kind of have to do this because I don't want to watch Duck Hodges against, I don't know, who's another backup, Tim Boyle. We have to watch Tim Boyle on Friday against the Dolphins, by the way. I don't want to watch backup quarterbacks play football. It's going to be awful. So just remember, next time you see a hit that you feel like is unfair and a call that makes you mad, well, the NFL is doing everything they can to protect NFL quarterbacks because they need to, because we don't want to watch bad football. On Monday Night Football, Philly beat Kansas City 21-17. And Kansas City led 17-7 at halftime and then could not score in the second half. They ended up losing 21-17. And the thing we have to talk about, right? Kansas City had a great opportunity to score. Marquez Valdes-Scantling dropped a wide-open deep ball that was in the end zone, would have been a touchdown with 1:40 to go in the game. And it was brutal. It was like, whoa, that's bad football. That hurts to watch. So Philly's now 9-1. They win. And I still believe, I know I'm crazy, this is a rematch of the Super Bowl last year. Kansas City won that matchup. I think Philly and Kansas City could rematch again in the Super Bowl. I know that's kind of out there thinking. Everyone's talking about how, Kansas City hasn't been their best this year, and I agree with that. And it's also worth noting, this is the first time Andy Reid has ever lost to Philly, by the way. Remember, he used to be the coach in Philly, even got them to a Super Bowl, didn't win, they got rid of him. This game is way more of a defensive battle than I expected. I thought Philly's defense played well, the Kansas City defense played well. I didn't think either offense was particularly good. Probably the best thing about this game, actually, I've never listened to a full episode of New Heights, the podcast with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce. I ride my bike to work. It's 3 miles. And I got a lot of time to fill. I probably, on my commute to work. So after you listen to Strong Opinion Sports, your weekly favorite podcast, please let that be true. I encourage you, because I'm going to listen to it. I want to hear Travis and Jason Kelce recap what it was like to play each other on Monday Night Football. I'm sure that's going to be a great episode. And, how do I say this nicely? I don't need to tear someone else down. I just like their energy, right? The people that are the biggest in the sports world, I'm kind of like, yeah, it irritates me. But these two guys are great, and I want more of them. And so I've only listened to clips of their show, New Heights. I'm going to listen to Travis and Jason Kelce recapping their time playing each other on Monday night. I'm going to find, I don't know if that episode's out yet or not, but I'm going to find it, track it down, listen to it. That'll be a lot of fun. Now, a question people are asking after this game, Kansas City losing to Philly 21-17, not scoring at all in the second half, by the way. The question is, can Kansas City win a Super Bowl with the receiving core they currently have? Travis Kelce and then a lot of guys you've never heard of or guys who are not very overwhelmingly good. I actually would say yes. I know that's controversial. Remember, first of all, Kansas City won a Super Bowl last year with basically the same guys they got now. And Kansas City, I can't imagine. I'm very disconnected from the NFL media, but I get messages. I kind of know what people are generally talking about, given my DMs and the things people are saying in your group chats and stuff. And people are saying Kansas City's receiving core is garbage. I mean, they just lost to Philly, who's got the best record in football, by 4 points. There are definitely issues they got to deal with in Kansas City, for sure. The receiving core could be better. In fact, I hope they draft a receiver. I'd like to see them get better at receiver next year. But, man, let's not act like Kansas City can't win a game. They got the best quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life. They've got a really good defense. Probably the best tight end of all time, at least at catching passes. And I just look at Kansas City and go, they can hang with anybody. They just hung with Philly. It's not like they lost. It sucked. Let's not overreact, though. Kansas City's fine. The Chiefs have a shot at a Super Bowl. Are they going to win? I'm not sure. I like the Ravens a lot in the AFC right now. But that's a hell of a game. If Kansas City played especially now, Buffalo's kind of fallen off a cliff. The Cincinnati Bengals are out. The Browns don't have a quarterback. Pittsburgh is a disaster on offense. Right, the contenders we thought were going to be high-level contenders in the AFC have fallen off. The Chargers aren't any good. So now, who are the best two teams in the AFC? Kansas City and Baltimore? Miami's in there, that conversation too. Are you really going to tell me that... Actually, I think Houston might be a contender. Houston's better than I think people realize. Better than I definitely thought they would be. But the Jets don't have a quarterback. So remember, I thought the AFC was going to be incredibly difficult to win this year. Well, Rodgers is out. The Bills are down. Burrow's out. Bengals don't have a quarterback. Or so the Browns don't have a quarterback. The Steelers are winning with their defense, but have been outgained in every game this year. The Texans are a great story. They're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. The Broncos are figuring it out. But you're telling me the best teams in the AFC are Baltimore and Miami probably, and you're telling me Kansas City can't hang with them and reach a Super Bowl? They absolutely can. So let's not overreact to Kansas City and say they're garbage, their receiving core sucks, they're doomed forever. It's just not true. All right. On Sunday Night Football, the Denver Broncos beat the Minnesota Vikings 21-20. Vikings quarterback Josh Dobbs had 2 more touchdowns. It was really fun to watch. By the way, did anyone see the picture of Josh Dobbs' parents? They look miserable. Like, I'm sure I only have seen a screenshot. I never saw the video. It's a hilarious meme. I am not sure that, how you say this? How do I say this? That captured their real energy as a family and as parents. But man, it was a funny look where they're like frowning and upset at a football game watching their son be the NFL quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. And the caption I saw was like, Josh Dobbs' parents wish he worked for NASA, right? It's like the typical disapproving parents that are like, what is my crazy son doing, right? I'm sure that's not, if you talk to them, I'm sure they're lovely people, man. And Josh Dobbs is chasing his dreams. It's awesome. So Josh Dobbs, first play of the second quarter, had a sweet touchdown, by the way. He escaped a sack. It was really cool. He shrugs off a defender, throws a touchdown. Josh Dobbs had 2 more touchdowns in the game. He was fun to watch on Sunday night. They did lose. Denver won. Minnesota lost. And Josh Dobbs had 2 turnovers. He had a fumble and an interception. Both turnovers led to a field goal for Denver, although the fumble was a play that, what's the name of that safety in Denver? He got suspended now for 4 more games. Whoever hit him, the hit on Josh Dobbs got the guy suspended. I want to say off the top of my head it's Kareem Jackson, but do not quote me on that. Look it up. Do your own research. I tell you, when I don't know, I try to acknowledge, right? The guy who hit Josh Dobbs and caused him to fumble literally got suspended for 4 games, partially because of that hit and other stuff he's done. So I think an illegal hit that wasn't messed up probably doesn't fumble, probably isn't a turnover. Anyway, Josh Dobbs, they didn't win. And in a game where you lose by 1 point, 2 turnovers that lead to field goals, even 1 turnover that lead to a field goal for Denver. The interception is, if you want to only focus on that one, you lose by 1, you hand 6 points to your opponent. That sucks. You got to acknowledge Josh Dobbs. The turnovers were a problem. It's part of why they lost. I got to say, though, the game delivered. Like Sunday Night Football, man. Denver, Minnesota came down to the very end. It was delightful. That's all I want from football, man. I want to not know who's going to win. I want it to be close until the end. That's a perfect game. I'll watch literally any football game in the world. Pee-wee football? Probably not. I'm probably not going to watch. I need some level of quality. But from high school football, the college, the NFL, all I want, the lowest level I'm going is high school football. I'm not watching JV football. I'm sorry. I don't have the energy for it. Freshman football, no effing way. But all I want is a game that's close at the end. That's exactly what this game was. I was very happy watching Sunday night. And it always makes me happy. It's a massive win for Denver. The Broncos are now 5-5. They started the year 1-5. They've won 4 in a row. And he's been playing well. He's been playing very well. The guy I've criticized him a lot. I've said he's not playing well enough given their losses, whatever. Russ has been playing pretty well. Russell Wilson, the Broncos quarterback, has been pretty dang good this year. And he's a big part of why they're winning. It took a while. They got a new coach. They had a rough start. But now, Denver's 5-5. They're back in a position to maybe make a playoff game, which is so cool. After a 1-5 start, you're like, no effing way, they're done. Russell Wilson, by the way, this year, 19 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions on the year. He's playing great football. It's I think it's getting a little bit overlooked, actually, how solid he's been. He has got no fumbles this year. He's playing really good. And little tip of the cap to Russ, man. I think that people are not talking enough about, like, we all owe Russell Wilson an apology. Especially after the 1-5 start, we're like, he's garbage, bench him, what are they going to do? I was even one of the people that was like, what do we do? But now, I don't feel like I owe him an apology. When they were 1-5, it was like, well, this isn't working. But now that they're 5-5 and it is kind of working and you're turning it around, let's now acknowledge that, hey, Russ, it is working now. And it maybe always was working. It probably was the defense's fault. I remember saying that early in the year for sure. But, yeah, Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, it's actually going pretty well right now. Good for them. The Vikings are 6-5 after this loss. Actually, 6-5. Minnesota would still be a playoff team if the playoffs started today. So I think they're okay. Minnesota, they had 3 turnovers. Denver had 0. That's really the difference in this football game, to be totally honest. Minnesota, you can't have 3 turnovers. You lose by 1 point. But as you look ahead to the rest of the Vikings schedule, a playoff game is a very real possibility still. They play Chicago, the Raiders. They play Cincinnati, who doesn't have their quarterback. The Raiders are playing pretty well actually right now, but playing the Lions twice, don't love that. The Lions are like really good. Play Green Bay. So I think at worst case scenario, absolutely worst case scenario right now, Minnesota's going to finish 9-8. That might get them a playoff game. If they can win a game against like Detroit, maybe I think that Chicago, they can win. Bengals, they can win. Packers, they can win. That would be 9 wins. Let's say they beat the Lions once. That's 10 wins. And if they can beat the Raiders, who are actually playing pretty good football right now, that's 11 wins. That's probably a playoff appearance. So you win a couple tough games, I think Minnesota could be a playoff team. And they're right in the mix. That's all I want. That makes me happy. That's really interesting. And Minnesota is very, very close to securing that number 7 seed in the NFC. Keep your eye on that. Josh Dobbs, story of the year, man. Love the guy. I love him as a human. Like, he comes across as a great dude. Got a cool story. Really smart. Wicked smart. Wicked smart, right? From Boston. And you love to see Josh Dobbs do well. He's such an easy guy to root for. His story's cool. Backup quarterback for so long. No one believes in him. Now he's playing great. Kevin O'Connell. Oh, here's the guy we got to talk about, actually. I'm realizing now. Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach. What a coach, man. Like, first year last year, wins a playoff game. They're great. This year, they start horribly. The Vikings started 1-4. Now they've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They won 5 in a row. Now they lost 1, so they're 6-5. But they're doing it without their starting quarterback, Kirk Cousins. They don't have Justin Jefferson, their number 1 receiver. Even though they lost, I know they lost by 1 point on Sunday Night Football. I feel like we are somehow overlooking the incredible coaching job Kevin O'Connell's doing with Josh Dobbs. And by the way, that first game Josh Dobbs played, Kevin O'Connell was in the headset telling him to play, like teaching him, hey, here's what we got to do. That's amazing. That's a great job coaching. And Kevin O'Connell, man, aren't you happy? Minnesota Vikings fans, I know some of you. You had to watch what was that coach's name? Oh, it was the guy who was angry and defensive coach. He had Kirk Cousins. He didn't like him. What's his Vikings former head coach? You know who I'm talking about. The guy the defensive coach, Mike Zimmer. Oh, yeah. Giving the Z names a bad name. After Mike Zimmer, this defensive, I don't even know what the word stodgy means. I should Google that too. Stodgy? What does that mean? Stodgy? Stodgy means a long and thin, that's a stogie. No, stodgy? Okay, well, I don't want to talk about a stogie, and I can't figure out maybe stodgy is dodgy? I don't know. My point is, he's a guy who's kind of tough to connect with, I would think, as a player. Mike Zimmer. Defensive guy, gruff, tough, not very open to throwing the football very much. How much of a breath of fresh air is Kevin O'Connell after Mike Zimmer? If you're a Vikings fan, you got to be. I know your year is going kind of sideways. You lost your quarterback, but you got Josh Dobbs. That's fun, at least. But as a fan of the Vikings, I am sure that you are just so happy you have Kevin O'Connell. Because as long as you got Kevin O'Connell, you got a coach who can work well with quarterbacks, you're probably going to be interesting to watch. If nothing else, if not maybe eventually a Super Bowl contender. Like, I really think Kevin O'Connell's the right guy for the job, and Vikings fans should be so happy to have their coach. All right. The Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 31-26. This was a wild game. We got to talk about it. Chicago actually led the game late. The Bears were up 26-14, a 12-point lead with 4 minutes and 15 seconds left. They had a 12-point lead with 4 minutes left to go in the game. And yet, Chicago lost 31-26. Oh, boy, that's painful. Detroit got 17 points in the final 4 minutes of this football game. 2 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion, and then to really put an exclamation point on the game, they got a safety at the end. What? It's crazy, man. It was fun to watch. It was a wild way for Detroit to win. But the result is that now the Detroit Lions are 8-2. The last time the Lions were 8-2, by the way, was 1962. If my math is correct, and my math isn't actually that great, like my job, you know what I do? I go like, is this 6 inches? And then I mark like a piece of copper pipe and I cut the copper pipe. That's about all the math I do in my life, right? How long is this piping? I needed 55 inches. I cut it at 55. That's the only really calculations I'm doing in my life. So don't have the best math in the world. But to me, 1962 was 61 years ago, correct? That means a lot of people have lived and died since the last time the Lions were 8-2. That's rough, man. A lot of Lions fans have never, ever, 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 ever seen their team this good. Very cool. And one crazy thing about this game is that Lions quarterback Jared Goff had 3 interceptions. Like, Jared Goff, the Lions quarterback, had a rough day, but he kept battling. And he still found a way in the end to win. So I respect the fight in Jared Goff. I respect the comeback. It's a horrible way to lose if you're a Bears fan, but Detroit is currently the number 2 seed in the NFC, and I'm really happy for them. Bears fans, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. It's another painful loss. I will say, though, Bears fans, to make you feel better, every time you lose, it does give you a better draft pick. So, like, you're losing, and it sucks, and it hurts, and I know losing is never fun. But at least there's like a little prize at the end. If you're going to lose, it might as well give you a better draft pick. It could be worse. I think as far as losing goes, the worst way to lose right now would be Carolina. You're awful, and you don't even have your first round draft pick. So, like, you're literally handing Chicago the number 1 pick because you're so bad. That's a horrible way to lose. At least the Bears are like, at least we're losing and getting something out of it. The Dolphins beat the Raiders on Sunday 20-13. The Dolphins are now 7-3. This was not the most dominating win for Miami, but I don't really know why it matters. Tyreek Hill had a sick touchdown where he caught a slant and then turned on the Jets and just beat everybody in a race to the end zone, and it was wild, man. Raiders rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell got picked off 3 times in the second half. I do feel like that's a bit misleading, though. I want to say about Aiden O'Connell, 2 of those interceptions were in the final 2 possessions of the game where the Raiders were trying to tie the game and get back in it. One was on 4th down. Like, an interception on 4th down is one that you don't love. Like, you never like an interception. But on 4th down, you can't take a sack. You got to get rid of the football. You got to try to make a play on 4th down. He did. It got picked off. I don't know. It's Aiden O'Connell. The interception numbers, I feel like, are a bit overinflated, just given the situation. He did a fine job. Not great, but I don't hold the 3 interceptions and go, he sucks, he's terrible. It's like, well, no, like, relax. By the way, 2 of the interceptions were by Miami corner Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey recently came back from an injury and is very, very, very much making his impact be felt. And all in all for the Raiders right now, I can live with this game. You lose by 7 to Miami, who I believe is a Super Bowl contender. That's not horrible. I still really like Antonio Pierce, the interim head coach in Las Vegas with the Raiders. He's 2-1 as the interim head coach. And I think all that needs to be said about Antonio Pierce is that the Raiders team is much more competitive than they were before he took over, when they had Josh McDaniels as the head coach before. So I like Antonio Pierce. I hope he keeps doing well, and I'd like to see him win more so that he can keep his job, because he seems like an awesome dude to work for. And that, to me, is monumentally valuable, Like, having a boss that you're like, I ride or die with this guy. He's great. That's the most, I think, important thing you could ever have. Someone who's loyal and cares for you and wants your best interests. And I mean, that's everything. So, man, Raiders, tough loss, but I like the direction they're headed in. And I'm really actually rooting for the Raiders a lot the rest of the year because I find Antonio Pierce a likable and compelling human, and that works for me. The New York Giants beat Washington 31-19 on Sunday. Washington quarterback Sam Howell kind of threw the game away, in my opinion. He had not one, not two, but 3 interceptions. A couple of rough ones, threw a pick six with 16 seconds left in the game. It's tough. I mean, they were down 5 trying to win, but there's no time left on the clock. You're trying to make a play. All in all, to me, Sam Howell, despite having a kind of a bad game here, at least on the stat sheet, he's had a great year. Like, go watch. They lost to Seattle last week, but Sam Howell was fantastic. So, I think a bad game against Buffalo earlier this year, then a bad game against the Giants. They feel like outliers to me and not really the norm. I believe Sam Howell is definitely the quarterback for next year and probably the quarterback of the future in Washington. It's tough because it does feel like at 4-7, Washington is going to make a lot of changes in the offseason. They got a new owner. They're probably going to fire Ron Rivera, the head coach. They're going to make sweeping changes, and I hope the new coach likes Sam Howell. But that's why I hesitate to say he's the quarterback of the future because we just don't know what's going to happen next for Washington. But I think Sam has had a really good year. And, again, they lost to Seattle 2 weeks ago by 3. And Sam was awesome, man. Like, Sam has done a lot of really good stuff for Washington this year. What's around him isn't great. Now, a cool story from this game. I remember the Giants beat Washington 31-19. Giants quarterback Tommy DeVito threw 3 touchdown passes. Tommy DeVito is an undrafted rookie quarterback out of Illinois. The dude was 18 for 26 passing at 246 yards. Not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdown passes. 0 turnovers on the day. In 2019, years ago now, Tommy DeVito played quarterback for Syracuse and had a couple multi-touchdown games. But then there's a lot of nothing. He transferred to Illinois to try to get on the field his senior year. He had 3 touchdown passes one time his final year at Illinois. Against, by the way, Tennessee Chattanooga. Like, it's kind of crazy. Tommy DeVito is essentially playing better in the NFL than he ever did in college. That's cool, man. I like him. I don't think he's a starting quarterback. He's very not a high level of potential there. But he does seem like a likable guy. He's an Italian dude. He's got this Italian celebration. He does the pinched fingers. Yeah. Like, not the Johnny Manziel, like, where you're making money, just like, when you like, like, I don't know how to like imitate Italian, but I just like the guy. I think he's hopefully going to have a long career in the NFL as a backup. Like, I think he's probably good to keep around, and you like him enough. Clearly, he can step in for a couple games and do some good stuff. All you really want from your backup quarterback is, hey, if my starting quarterback gets hurt for a game or two, can you come in and keep everything together? Right? I don't think, I heard RG3, talking about how, I don't remember where I saw it. I think it was RG3. No, it was the other guy. Who's the bitter quarterback who played for the Chargers? Bitter's wrong. Not a great word there. Sorry to you out there. I didn't mean to offend you. But what is his name? He played quarterback at Missouri, was backup behind Justin Herbert. He said that the NFL needs to invest in better backup quarterbacks because if your starting quarterback gets hurt, you don't want your whole season to fall apart. I actually disagree. Chase Daniel, that's who it was. I disagree a little bit. You should expect if your starting quarterback, Joe Burrow, gets hurt for the year, you're done. Your year is over. All you want from your backup quarterback is, hey, if Joe Burrow hurts his hand and he's got to miss 2 or 3 games, can we survive 2 or 3 games without him? That's what you want a backup quarterback for. And Tommy DeVito seems like that. So that's cool, man. He's an Italian kid playing for his hometown team, the Giants. Remember, Tommy DeVito went to high school 20 minutes from Giant Stadium in New Jersey. And what's funny, by the way? The Giants are 3-8. Of their 3 wins, 2 of the Giants' wins have been against Washington. They're just, Washington cannot handle what the Giants bring to the table, apparently. Now, the craziest stat from this game, by the way, Remember Washington losing to the Giants, Tommy DeVito having 3 touchdowns. The craziest stat from this game has nothing to do with Washington or the Giants. Did you know Tommy DeVito now has more games with multiple passing touchdowns than Steelers 2022 first-round pick quarterback Kenny Pickett? Tommy DeVito has only started 2 games in the NFL in his career. He's played in 4 total. Kenny Pickett has played in 23 games in his career. He was a first-round pick, and yet somehow Tommy DeVito has 2 games with multiple touchdown passes in his career, and Kenny Pickett only has 1. Oh, I want to puke. That's horrifying. Pretty rough. Pretty rough, man. Kenny Pickett. Let's talk about Pittsburgh. The Browns beat Pittsburgh 13-10 on Sunday. And Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett was 15 for 28 passing, had 106 yards. Not great. No touchdowns, no turnovers, I guess. But on one hand, you got to acknowledge Kenny Pickett was playing against the best defense in the NFL. On the other hand, that's still really pathetic and horrifying. Pittsburgh agreed. Apparently, Pittsburgh now has fired their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, and people in Pittsburgh celebrated all over the internet today. It was a long time coming. And during the offseason, I remember, I actually think, I don't think I loved it, but I remember being in favor and justifying the move from them keeping Matt Canada going into this year, because I said, it wouldn't be cool to make Kenny Pickett learn a new offense going into year 2. Like, let's have him have some continuity. Boy, was I wrong, right? I think Matt Canada was horrible for Kenny Pickett. Let's be clear. First of all, both Matt Canada sucked this year, the offensive coordinator. Kenny Pickett has also sucked. They both, on their own, have not done well enough. But certainly part of it could be that Matt Canada never appeared to trust Kenny Pickett. Like, he didn't ever seem to give the kid any confidence. Like, compare Matt Canada to Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. It's not even close. I think it's possible. I do think the word is possible. It's possible Kenny Pickett could be better next year with a different offensive coordinator. Maybe a guy who respects him, trusts him, believes in him. That stuff does matter. Like, how can you expect a player to have confidence in themselves if the coach doesn't have confidence in the player? It's pretty basic stuff, actually, that most coaches seem to monumentally not understand. Again, that's why I love Mike McDaniel. He gave confidence from day one. Said, I believe in you, kid. Let's make it work. You're awesome. I love what you do. And I think that made Tua relax and play really good football. Kenny Pickett, if he's going to succeed, needs that. However, I got a couple problems with Kenny Pickett, man. He's made a ton of mistakes this year that no NFL quarterback should make. Missing wide open throws, either not seeing them open or literally physically it's a miss. Like, he has a throw, he goes to make the throw, and the ball doesn't get there because it's a bad throw. And you're like, oh my goodness, how is that possible? Hasn't beat blitzes very well. And he isn't super talented. Kenny Pickett doesn't have a big arm. He's not a great runner. In fact, I can't pinpoint the thing that Kenny Pickett does really well because he's just not great at anything. He's not super accurate, doesn't make good decisions, can't run, is not physically imposing. Like, I don't know what about Kenny Pickett makes anyone go, yeah, that's a great quarterback. There's no one trait you'll fall in love with. So certainly there are a lot of things that need to be figured out in Pittsburgh on offense. By the way, the Browns are now 7-3. The Cleveland Browns look like they could still make the playoffs even without a quarterback. And it's a huge missed opportunity, honestly, because the Browns, dude, if the Browns had, can we say it? There's 2 quarterbacks that have been on the Browns roster in the last couple of years that I think would make the Browns really good. If the Browns had Baker Mayfield right now, playoff team, probably a Super Bowl contender, right? As awful as that is, I believe that. Oh yeah, by the way, in August, guess who was on the Browns roster and they got rid of him? Joshua Dobbs, the guy who's killing it in Minnesota right now. There's no organization that gets in their way more than the Cleveland Browns. And the way they've handled their current quarterback situation is a prime example of that. The LA Rams beat Seattle 17-16 on Sunday. I did say going into this past weekend, whenever I recorded last week, I did say the Rams tend to play Seattle well. I did think Seattle was going to win. And shout out to Seattle Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith. Regardless of winning or losing, the dude got leveled at the end of the third quarter. He got obliterated by Aaron Donald. He left the game hurt. And then in the fourth quarter, final drive of the game, you're down, you need points. Geno came back in the game. Drew Lock came in for a while, wasn't great, threw a pick. Geno came back, put together a solid drive, set up a 55-yard field goal attempt with 3 seconds left. Now, Seattle Seahawks kicker Josh Myers missed the kick. But this game was really close, and Geno fought through pain to give his team a shot. Didn't work, but I think still that's very cool. So, game was close. I mean, the Rams took the lead with a field goal with a minute and a half left. So the Rams took a late lead. Seattle tried to respond. I think if Geno Smith is healthy the entire game, Seattle would have won. But right now, the 49ers lead the NFC West. The 49ers are 7-4. Seattle is... I think the 49ers are 7-3. I want to check that. My notes might be wrong. Let's double check. The 49ers currently are 7-3. Seattle is 6-4. And it's a really tight race right now in the NFC West. Those two teams play each other this weekend, so it's going to be fun and interesting. Regardless, man, the game was fun. I watched this game, and I loved it. And especially at the end of it, the final couple minutes, Geno coming back in the game made me go, wow. I love this guy. Like, say what you want about him. Not like the best quarterback in the NFL, but dude's a fighter. And that's the kind of guy I ride or die for. The kind of guy who goes back in the game when he's dealing with stuff, who gets up. That's awesome to me. All right, I got to tell you about our second sponsor of the day, Factor, baby. Factor Meal Kits is offering 50% off to listeners of this show. Go to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use code SOS50 to get 50% off. That's code SOS50 at factormeals.com/SOS50 to get 50% off. Can we be very clear, by the way? That's a great deal. Like, you should look into it regardless of what I'm about to say next, because money is really tough for everybody right now if you're a normal person and you're not Jeff Bezos. And, man, food is everything. You need food to live, and I think this is a cheap way to get good food. Factor's a meal kit service. They send you ready-to-eat meals. They're easy to prepare. They showed up in a box for me with a bunch of high-quality ice packs. You put the meal kits in the fridge, and when you want food, you go to the fridge. You pick up the food, you put it in the microwave, and about 2-3 minutes later, I would recommend 3. They say 2 in their little ad sheet. I tell you 3 minutes because I've eaten the food, and I think 3 minutes works better. But you eat it, it's ready to go. It's high quality, it's never frozen, good ingredients. And when you compare Factor to all the other options you can have for a quick and easy meal, I would say this is the best. Especially, let me say, I used to use, there's a famous restaurant chain with arches, we'll say. I don't want to talk about another food thing during an ad read. I'm probably going to get fired for this. But I will say, I used to use this app religiously. Their prices have gone up. And I no longer use the Arches app because it screws you over. I'm like, screw that place. You can't get anything for less than $8. I'm like, no way. I'm out. No way. That's not a deal anymore. Factor's a great deal. You want food that's way better than any fast food can give you for cheaper, better ingredients. I would say this is the best. Factor Meal Kits is the best option you can have to go get outstanding food that is quick and easy. Also, I think this is really interesting. There are so many ways you can customize your order. Maybe you're on a diet, you're trying to cut calories. There are low-calorie options for sure. Factor can meet you wherever you want to be. You can customize your order however you want. Maybe you just want a good meal that doesn't take 30 minutes to an hour out of your life to prepare. Like for me, I'm really busy right now, and it's a really valuable thing for me to go to my fridge, have a really good meal just waiting for me. You pull it out, you put it in the microwave 2-3 minutes later, you have a great meal ready to go. That is valuable. Saved a lot of time for me. Again, it's also cheaper and better for you than other options. You've got 50% off with code SOS50 compared to takeout or delivery. Those guys' prices, by the way, takeout right now, delivery apps, those are expensive. Factor, a better option. Better for you too. And if you want a high-quality meal quickly, I recommend Factor. Head to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use code SOS50 to get 50% off. That's code SOS50 at factormeals.com/SOS50 to get 50% off your order, baby. All right. By the way, if you're sensing a lot of energy from me, that's true. I'm really feeling it right now. I'm in the groove. There's a lot of factors, though. I want to be clear. I feel like every time I come to the show with good energy, meaning like entertaining, high energy. People go, he's on drugs. Not on drugs at all, by the way. I'm just tired. I've been up since 3 in the morning. I woke up at 3 in the morning, finished writing this show, went to work at 7, worked from 7 to 6:30 as a plumber. Now here we are, 8:25 p.m. at night, recording a podcast that's going to go for 2.5 hours. So if I'm unhinged, it's because I'm tired, but I'm also enjoying it. So I don't know, man. Let's talk about the 49ers. The 49ers beat Tampa 27-14 this weekend. To me, the story of this game is 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. He's back on track. Brock Purdy was 21 for 25 passing at 333 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers on the day. Brock Purdy had a shaky stretch where the 49ers lost 3 games in a row. But since then, he's put together 2 great games back-to-back. The last 2 weeks, he's got 6 touchdowns, no turnovers, and 2 wins. That's incredible. Tampa's now 4-6. So the 49ers are awesome. Brock Purdy's back. Tampa's 4-6. I expected Tampa to lose this football game, let's be clear. But the Saints lead the NFC South right now at 5-5. So technically, Tampa's not out of the race at all. And I'm really curious if Tampa, the Buccaneers, can kind of keep their season alive. The Buffalo Bills destroyed the New York Jets 32-6 this past weekend. It's a good win for Buffalo. Buffalo is 6-5. They're currently the number 8 seed in the AFC, which is kind of pathetic when you consider how weak right now the AFC is with all the starting quarterbacks injured and out for the year. Buffalo is a mess, I think, honestly. Although they're talented enough that if they get in the play, if they just make a playoff game, they could go on a run potentially. If Josh Allen gets hot, he's very streaky. But the Jets are now 4-6 after losing to the Bills, and the Jets are in trouble right now because they may not be good enough to justify Aaron Rodgers coming back at the end of this year. In fact, the big story from this game, probably more than anything else, is that after this game, Jets quarterback Zach Wilson has been benched. So that means the Jets are going to start Tim Boyle at quarterback on Friday night against Miami. And that feels like a disaster waiting to happen in his career, by the way, in his NFL career. Tim Boyle has 3 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. You did not hear me wrong. 3 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. That is horrifying. And it's the same story in college somehow, too. In Tim Boyle's college career, listen to this. This is insane. Tim Boyle threw 1 touchdown pass in college. 13 interceptions. 13 interceptions, 1 touchdown pass. The dude has been in the NFL for 5 years. Why the F am I a plumber? I should be in the NFL with those kind of stats. What? Tim Boyle's an NFL quarterback starting on Friday? I remember I went to camps in high school. I outperformed Brett Rippon, who started games for the Rams this year. Why am I here? I did better than Tim Boyle did in college. What the heck? It's because I'm 5'11", let's be clear. But Tim Boyle, don't forget about what I said about me. My point is this. Why is Tim Boyle in this position? This is a horrifying thought. It's pretty insane. I can't imagine Tim Boyle is going to be better than Zach Wilson. Although, is Tim Boyle going to be worse than Zach Wilson? Probably, right? Probably. 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in the NFL, 1 touchdown, 13 interceptions in college. I don't get it. I don't know. He's playing because he knows the system, I guess. Zach Wilson's demoted to quarterback number 3. I want to read something about this, though. I saw a post a second ago. I'm going to pull up a screenshot I took. Apparently, here is what Aaron Rodgers said. Oh, I had it. Did I send it to myself? Let's see if we can find it. Maybe I saved it. It was Aaron Rodgers talking about, it's because my date is off. Aaron Rodgers says, what's the word there? My airplane mode was on because I record, Aaron Rodgers said, he was talking to Pat McAfee apparently, said, "This is disappointing. I have some personal guilt around the whole thing. I'm pissed I wasn't able to play and frustrated that if I was out there, and I feel like I'd be playing well, there would be obviously different narratives around our team, and Zach would have the opportunity to learn and grow and see what it looks like without the pressure on, being able to sit in those meetings and go through the season and just kind of watch me in my process." Aaron Rodgers is saying something I totally believe, which is if Aaron Rodgers had been healthy all year, Zach Wilson would have been able to learn a lot from him and then maybe someday could have been the starting quarterback again and really been put in a position to do well. Instead, he was forced back into action before I think he was ready. And frankly, before the team around him was ready to help him either. I just feel bad for Zach. I think it's a horrible situation all around. And I think I would like to see Zach Wilson stay the backup quarterback in New York behind Aaron Rodgers. He's got potential. He's a good kid. He's struggling right now, for sure. But to me, there's potential there, and I'd like to see them keep him. The Green Bay Packers beat the Chargers 23-20 on Sunday. It was a solid win for Green Bay. Packers quarterback Jordan Love was good. He was 27 for 40 passing, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. That's what I want to see every week from Jordan Love. I don't need Jordan Love to throw 7 touchdowns a week. I don't even need 2, really. Just 1 would be great. But to be solid and consistent, that's what I want. If he has 2 touchdowns and 27 for 40, that's a great week. What Jordan Love did against the Chargers on Sunday is me going, can you just do that? Be consistent with that, and you're going to be a really good quarterback for a long time in the NFL. Now, the story of this game, though, is that the LA Chargers lost again. The LA Chargers keep finding ways to lose football games. It's horrifying. And the Chargers have lost 5 games this year by 3 points or less. That is insane. That's horrifying. If they could win a 1-score game, the Chargers would be 9-1. I don't really know what else to say about that. Their roster's loaded. They've got a star quarterback, Justin Herbert, and yet still every week, the Chargers continue to underachieve. And to me, the problem is so obviously their head coach, Brandon Staley. Like, man, new year, same Chargers as every year previously with him. They're underachieving again. I cannot imagine anyone right now still supporting the LA Chargers. Their fan base has just been drug through a lot of garbage. And by the way, you can't blame Justin Herbert for the loss this time. You know, he threw a nice deep ball to Quentin Johnson with 23 seconds left. Beautiful throw in his hands. Should have been the game-winning touchdown, but Quentin Johnson dropped it. And he's a first-round pick, underachieving like the rest of the Chargers around Justin Herbert, man. It's tough. It's really tough. Fire Brandon Staley, please. Please, 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 please. I'm begging you. Please fire Brandon Staley. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys beat Carolina 33-10. The final score was actually closer than I expected. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be like 50-0. You win by 23 points. I don't know much to say here. It was still a blowout. I mean, Dallas was a much better team. They were supposed to win. They did. They're 7-3. The Dallas Cowboys right now, they're the number 5 seed in the NFC, so they're the number 1 wild card team. Of the teams not winning their division, they're the highest ranked, highest rated, highest record of the teams in the wild card round. Makes sense to me. And the Jaguars beat Tennessee this weekend 34-14. I would call this a comfortable win for the Jaguars. This is the game for the Jaguars where they finally looked like the team I think they're capable of being. They win by 20 points. They dominated time of possession. Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars quarterback, looked awesome, had 4 touchdowns. The problem with the Jaguars this year is that their losses have been all awful. They're 7-3, but they couldn't score a touchdown against Kansas City. They got dominated by Houston 37-17. They got embarrassed by the 49ers 34-3. Still, though, things are going well in Jacksonville. I have a positive feeling towards the Jaguars right now, but I think they're a year or two away from having maybe a Super Bowl window open up. They're a player or two away, and at the draft, probably. So I like the Jaguars where they're headed. They're probably going to... They might win a playoff game this year, but they're not headed any farther than that, in my opinion. They're probably going to lose in the second round of the playoffs, and good for them. They're headed in a good direction. From where they started to where they are now, that's great. But it's still got a ways to go to be a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. For Tennessee, this was such a weird game. I really like Titans rookie quarterback Will Levis. He was 13 for 17 passing at 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did have a fumble. You don't love that. But, what is it? 13 for 17, 2 touchdowns, 158 yards. That's really good if you're playing and your game stops at halftime, right? But that's in 4 quarters, man. Will Levis threw the ball 17 times. He got sacked twice. They also ran the ball 19 times. That means Tennessee ran 38 plays all game long. The Jaguars, their opposition, ran like 69, 70 plays, something like that. So I thought Will Levis did well with the opportunities he got, the limited opportunities he got, but the Jaguars dominated time of possession, and Will Levis didn't have the opportunity to do as much as he could have because he just didn't have the ball very much. So I don't know. I don't hold anything against Will Levis from this football game. Houston beat Arizona 21-16. It was another good win for Houston, man. This one, the way they did it was kind of ugly. CJ Stroud, their quarterback, had 3 interceptions. But man, Houston found a way to do it again. And their defense made a lot of big plays. Houston is now 6-4. Right now, shockingly, in the AFC, if the playoffs started today, Houston would be the number 6 seed in the AFC, a playoff team. Impressive to me is an understatement. That's crazy. And the guy you got to give credit to is Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans. What a job he has done. It's incredible, man. Love the guy. He's awesome. I do also want to say, not a little side tangent here. Houston, great job. Heading in a good direction. I do really I watched this game, and the Cardinals all-white uniforms are sick. They're awesome, man. The Cardinals all-white, white helmets, white jerseys, white pants. Whoa! That's a good-looking jersey. Arizona's now 2-9. Kyler was fine, but not great. And to me, it's forgivable. Kyler Murray just came back from a torn ACL. He did have a beautiful long touchdown pass. I don't know. I really have no critique of Arizona here. It's just it's a loss, and they're not great. Kyler's getting healthier. We'll see what happens the rest of the year for them. In college football this past weekend, number 1 ranked Georgia beat number 18 Tennessee 38-10. Not a lot to say here. Georgia is now 11-0. They're very secure as the number 1 team in the country. I don't think Alabama's going to upset them in the SEC title game. I feel good about Georgia. Clemson, however, did grab my attention. Clemson beat number 20 North Carolina 31-20. And dang it, man. I don't know why it begrudges me to say this, but I do have to acknowledge that Clemson has really bounced back after a couple tough losses. Remember, they lost to Duke 28-7. Clemson lost to Duke 28-7. They lost to Florida State 31-24. They also lost to Miami and NC State. So since then, though, they've won 3 games in a row. They beat Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and now North Carolina. And shout out to Clemson corner Nate Wiggins. Dude, he ran down a long touchdown, saved a touchdown because he knocked the ball out and forced a turnover right before the guy crossed the goal line. I thought it was one of the best plays of the weekend. Nate Wiggins, corner at Clemson, running down a guy running into the end zone. Great play there. And North Carolina quarterback Drake May was 16 for 36 passing in this football game. 209 yards, a touchdown pass, an interception. The interception came with 2 minutes left. A route got jumped by a corner. I wonder if the NFL is cooling on Drake May. I really do. He's got all the physical tools. He's a big dude, can throw the ball really well. And he's actually had a pretty good year. But there have been a few moments where I'm like, oh, Drake May, that's an ugly decision. That's a bad, I don't know. I guess here's where I stand on Drake May right now. He's got some ugly moments, but so did Justin Herbert his senior year at Oregon. And I held the ugly moments against Justin Herbert. I ain't doing that again. So probably you draft Drake May, right? A guy really talented who plays well and got the skill set. I look at Drake May and go, if you're a confident coach, you can work with him and make him into a winning quarterback, I would think. I think that's the story, right? Who does he get? I feel like that matters so much more than people realize. Who does the quarterback go play for in the NFL? Right? If you go to a bad coach, you're going to suck. You go to a defensive coach who doesn't believe in quarterbacks, yeah. But Drake May goes to the right coach, home run, I think, in the NFL. I think he's still going to be a top 5 pick, but I wonder if the NFL right now is kind of cooling on Drake May. I mean, especially you look at Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., I can't wait to see what the NFL views of these guys, right? Around the draft day is going to be really interesting. Who goes first? Probably it's going to be Caleb Williams. But then after that, who's the second quarterback off the board? And where does Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Cameron Ward, Drake May, where do they all fall? It's going to be really fascinating to me. Number 5, Washington beat number 11 Oregon State 22-20 on Saturday. In the rain in Corvallis, Oregon. I thought it was a tough loss by Oregon State. They had 3 turnovers. DJ Uyunglele, the Oregon State quarterback, had 2 interceptions. On top of that, an Oregon State receiver fumbled a ball deep in Oregon State territory. That led to a Washington touchdown. But the real killer in this football game was a bad snap on a punt where it went over the punter's head, became a safety. They handed Washington 2 points. And Washington did not score at all. Now, where did the word now come from? Washington did not score at all in the second half. They led 22-10 at halftime. They won 22-20. The safety ended up really mattering for Oregon State. It cost them a lot, and it hurt. Notre Dame destroyed Wake Forest at 45-7, which had to feel really good for Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman. He transferred in from Wake Forest. Threw 4 touchdown passes against his former team. Cool moment for him. You love that. Something concerning happened in college football this past weekend. Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis had a really brutal leg injury. Do not watch the video of it. It's awful and horrifying. In the game against North Alabama, a really meaningful game, not. It's so unfortunate. Against North Alabama, Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis got really badly injured. Horrible leg injury. He's out for the year. College career is over. Don't watch the video. It's hard to watch. Leg was facing the wrong direction. Never fun. Florida State beat North Alabama 58-13. So Florida State's still undefeated. They're 11-0. Great for them, but now they've lost their quarterback. And any chances of winning a national title for me, really for me go out the window. You're like, oh, Florida State. Oh, no. What happens if you only have 3 teams that are undefeated? Who's that 4th team in college football? That's going to be wildly interesting. Also, a surprising game. I watched this. Number 17 ranked Arizona destroyed number 22 ranked Utah 42-18. Arizona had 42 points. Utah had 18 points. Arizona's now 8-3. And quietly, Arizona, the Wildcats, have had a really outstanding year down in Tucson, Arizona. Utah had a punt blocked that Arizona took for a touchdown. Utah quarterback Bryson Barnes threw 2 interceptions. I still want to say this. I maintain this every week. If Utah had a truly great quarterback, like a Heisman caliber quarterback like Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Cameron Ward, someone who is uniquely talented. I know Cameron Rising, the quarterback in Utah's coming back next year after being out all year with an injury for his 7th year of college football. That's not what I'm talking about. Cameron Rising is awesome, but no, I mean like someone who's a really ridiculously, uniquely talented player who can run, who can throw, who's got a huge arm, which is not, I like Cameron Rising. I'm excited to watch him. We'll see how he does next year, but that's not what I'm talking about. If Utah had a dynamic quarterback, they would dominate everyone. They run the ball well. They play great defense. They're just lacking a quarterback. They're like the Cleveland Browns of college football. And it's every year it's a frustration for me personally. Now, another thing that happened this weekend, UCLA beat USC 38-20. USC lost to UCLA 38-20. I thought USC quarterback Caleb Williams had a pretty solid game, actually. Threw an interception on a deep ball that I think you can't hold against him. It was a deep ball to Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son. One-on-one coverage. The defender won the one-on-one play and picked off the ball. It's like, well, what can you do? But Caleb Williams still lit up the stat sheet. However, man, if you told me going into college football week 12, USC was going to be unranked, they lose badly to UCLA. They're 7-5. I really did not expect USC to have the year they've had at all. In fact, I thought they would be much better. And it's no good, man. I really wonder about their future with Lincoln Riley, their head coach, and Caleb Williams heading off to the NFL. Man, things are really bad right now at USC. And it's also worth noting, by the way, my former college, Washington State, destroyed Colorado 56-14. Colorado's now 4-7 after starting 3-0. They have lost a lot of games in a row. Shedeur Sanders, their starting quarterback, left the game injured in this game. And Colorado, with this loss, has been eliminated from any possibility of making a bowl game. Pretty brutal. Colorado, good start to the year. They have fallen off a cliff. Now, right now, today, the Heisman favorites in college football are LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr., and Oregon quarterback Bo Nix. Jaden Daniels is the guy I would vote for if Heisman voting for me was today. I don't vote for the Heisman Trophy, let's be clear. No one believes that about me, but if someone thought that, but I would give my vote for Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is 3rd in the NCAA in passing, got 3,577 yards, about 100 yards behind the leaders, Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams. But Jaden Daniels has also run for 1,014 yards. And to me, That's just crazy. I know LSU doesn't have an undefeated record. They're 8-3. But many, many players have won a Heisman Trophy without having a great record and being in the national title game. RG3 did it. Johnny Manziel did it. Caleb Williams, Lamar Jackson. To me, when I look at the best quarterback in college football, that's not even the award goes to the best player in college football. The guy dominating college football right now, like no one else, is Jaden Daniels, the quarterback at LSU. He deserves it, in my opinion. We'll see if the final weeks of the season in college football change my opinion on any of that. Now, the top 5 teams in college football remain the same. The top 5 teams are undefeated: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, and Florida State. But here are the college football official playoff rankings. Georgia's number 1, Ohio State is number 2, Michigan is number 3, Washington number 4, and now Florida State is number 5, I think partially because their quarterback is now out for the year. This is going to get thrown into chaos when Michigan plays Ohio State this weekend. And then the one-loss teams, you got Oregon, Texas, and Alabama, and then one of the Ohio State or Michigan teams. So it's going to be an interesting year. I am really curious if Florida State loses, we're going to have Georgia, the Big Ten winner, and Washington most likely. Who is going to be that 4th team? I'm not confident Florida State can finish the year undefeated and make the college football playoffs. So I am very fascinated. Very fascinated with how the year is going to end in college football. We've got a massive weekend coming up in college football. Friday night, Oregon State plays at Oregon. Oregon State is 8-3. They just lost to Washington by 2. Oregon is 10-1. They're leaving for the Big Ten, so it's a huge game. Oregon is still in contention for a playoff spot. Oregon State could ruin their chances by winning here. That would be kind of fun. Alabama plays Auburn this weekend. The Iron Bowl is always dramatic and fun. Alabama's 10-1. Auburn is 6-5. I am not sure if Auburn can really challenge Alabama, excuse me. I'm not sure if they can compete with what Alabama's got on the field, but we will find out. I don't know if I'm going to watch this game. If it's good, I will, but I'm going to pay attention, and if it looks good at halftime, I'll tune in probably. And I'll probably actually watch like the opening. Here's how you watch the Iron Bowl. I don't know if it's going to be a good game. Watch the first 5 minutes, because the way the crowd gets into the game, Alabama and Auburn, they just hate each other, man. And you want some fun moments of energy, watch the first 5 minutes of the Iron Bowl. That's all I say. I don't know if the game's going to be good. Now, the biggest game of the weekend for sure, though, is Ohio State at Michigan. I have been looking forward to this game all year long. Now, unfortunately, I think it's BS, personally. Not because I care who wins and loses, and I don't care about Michigan got in trouble for it's like a cheating scandal, basically. But their coach has been sidelined through this game. So after this game, Jim Harbaugh comes back. I'm just sad for this one fact. I love football. It's my source of entertainment. I want the best game possible. I would be more excited about this game. I'm already going to be super excited. It's going to be an amazing game. This game would be even better if Jim Harbaugh was coaching, right? For him watching at home, that's awful. I think I understand the punishment and whatever. I don't really understand it, but that's not here nor there. Regardless of what Michigan did with sign stealing, we are potentially at risk of having a great game get turned sour by Michigan on having their coach. That's a problem to me, because you're messing with my joy. You're messing with my entertainment. You're taking my favorite show and taking one of the best characters out of it. That's my problem. That's a great analogy. I love Star Trek. It's probably my favorite TV show of all time is Star Trek Strange New Worlds with Captain Christopher Pike. I love James Kirk. I wanted to be Captain Kirk when I was a kid, but actually Christopher Pike in Strange New Worlds is amazing. If you take the captain out of the show, I ain't watching. That's why I watch. That's one of my favorite characters. It's not a perfect analogy, but you're taking one of my favorite characters out of this football game. I don't care about the cheating scandal. I don't care about any of that. I just want a good game. And I'm worried this game might have problems and not be as good because of Jim Harbaugh out there. But Michigan, to me, has got a better team. They've got a better quarterback. They're better up front. On paper, Michigan should win. But I also acknowledge they don't seem quite the same without Harbaugh. Like Michigan struggled against Talia Tagovailoa in Maryland last weekend. They barely survived. So this game is going to be fun and interesting. I just hope that Harbaugh's banishment doesn't ruin it. NFL Week 12 is coming this weekend on Thanksgiving Day. By the way, happy early Thanksgiving. I love you guys. On Thanksgiving, Green Bay plays at Detroit. That's going to be a fun game. I expect Detroit to win. on Thursday. Washington will play at Dallas on Thursday. That's another one that feels kind of lopsided. Dallas is a much better team. I'll be watching like a pig in mud. I'll just be in front of my really, I watch on my computer. So in front of my monitor in this exact spot, watching football all day. It's going to be glorious. Probably have a little bit of vitamins. You know, the fun stuff. What do we call it? Jazz cabbage? Jazz cabbage and football. Great day for me. The 49ers play at Seattle. This is the game. The 49ers play at Seattle. Game on Thanksgiving Day. It's a great one. Both teams are battling for the NFC West title. Seattle 6-4. The 49ers are 7-3. If one of these teams wins with a blowout, I believe it will be the 49ers, but I would be shocked if Seattle won by 20. Still, man. 49ers at Seattle on Thursday night, the last game of Thanksgiving. That's going to be the game to watch. I can't wait for that one. And, woo! Going to be fun. Hope you enjoy your turkey this weekend. On Black Friday, the Dolphins play the Jets. It's another kind of lopsided game. I expect Miami to dominate because the Jets are playing Tim Boyle at quarterback. And the fun matchup is going to be Miami's offense against a good Jets defense, but I expect Miami to win with very few problems because of the quarterback the Jets are playing with Tim Boyle. On Sunday, the Jaguars play Houston. It's an interesting game. The Jaguars are 7-3. Houston is 6-4. Same division. They're kind of battling. That'll be great. Two young quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence and C.J. Stroud. That's going to be awesome. How does C.J. Stroud bounce back after 3 interceptions this past weekend? Another great game on Sunday is Buffalo against Philly. Going into the year, you would have expected these to be two of the best teams in football. Well, Buffalo is 6-5. Philly is 9-1. And Buffalo needs to win this game, and badly. Sunday Night Football, we're getting the Ravens and the Chargers. I think there's potential for a great game here. It's another opportunity for the Chargers to lose a close game, which they love doing. It seems like they do it every week. No, all things seriously, I'm really interested to watch the Ravens offense because I believe the Ravens are a Super Bowl caliber team. And if they dominate the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, that would further solidify that feeling for me. And I would go, yeah, the Ravens are probably the best team in the AFC, actually. If they dominate like I think they could against the Chargers, it would make me feel really concrete in the fact that they're the team to beat in the AFC. On Monday Night Football, we got the Bears and Vikings. And despite Chicago being horrible, it's actually a fun game. Justin Fields playing Josh Dobbs is interesting. The Bears are 3-9. Minnesota 6-5 and currently a playoff team. Minnesota's got to keep winning to keep their current spot in the NFC playoff picture. So it's an NFC North rivalry game with a meaningful outcome for Minnesota. So I think Monday night's going to actually be a really interesting, fun game. The Browns play Denver. The Browns quarterback is Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Denver has won 4 games in a row. And what's interesting here is that it's a big test for Russell Wilson against the best defense in football against Cleveland. So Browns-Denver, interesting game here. How does Russell Wilson play against the best defense in football? Denver's 5-5 right now. 5-6 does not look as good at all as winning, many games in a row, being 6-5. So they've won 4 games in a row. Can they win 5 in a row in Denver? And can they beat the best defense in football? That's what's going to be interesting. And the Browns have a backup quarterback. Huge opportunity for Denver on Sunday. The Saints play Atlanta. That's a very meaningful game. The Saints are 5-5. They're currently the number 1 seed in the NFC South. Atlanta's 4-6 and second in that division. I'm watching for Tampa. Tampa with Baker Mayfield is a team that I just want to see do well. If Tampa wants any shot at coming back from third to win that division, they want Atlanta to win badly. How about Steelers and Cincinnati? Pittsburgh should probably win. They just fired their offensive coordinator, which probably gives them a boost on offense, even if just for a game, emotionally. The Bengals don't have their quarterback, Joe Burrow, so their season's over. Pittsburgh's got a great defense. In fact, I'll go as far as saying if Pittsburgh doesn't win this game, there's something very wrong with what happened on Sunday. Carolina plays Tennessee. It's a battle of 2 rookie quarterbacks, one that we probably didn't expect to be as interesting as it is. And I think Will Levis has been great. Bryce Young has been, I think the problem is he's not been supported, I guess. Carolina's not winning. So Bryce Young against Will Levis, I'm really curious who's going to play better. It's going to be an interesting matchup on Sunday between 2 rookie quarterbacks, Carolina and Tennessee. The Buccaneers play the Colts. It's a must-win game for Tampa. If they want any shot at, the only way they're making a playoff game is while winning their division, a horrible division. And I think it's probably going to be a hard-fought, fun, competitive game. Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, 2 of my favorite college quarterbacks of all time. If only like Jalen Hurts could be involved in this game, it would be. I made a video once, my favorite college quarterbacks. Those are the three: Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, and Gardner Minshew. Wow. I'm going to watch this game. Buccaneers Colts, that'll be really fun and interesting on Sunday. Patriots Giants is a game I do not recommend you watch at all. I have no idea who the Patriots quarterback is going to be. Either way, it's going to be awful, and both teams are terrible. How about we just say, don't watch Patriots Giants on Sunday? I'm sorry. If you're one of the fans of those two teams and you got to watch it, I apologize, man. That's going to be rough. The Rams play the Cardinals. This is an interesting game where it's another competitive rivalry game. I want to watch Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray. He's in his third game back from tearing his ACL. Probably going to be a good game here, actually, with the Rams at 4-6, Arizona's 2-9. Just because they're bad on paper doesn't mean the game still can't be competitive and fun. Compare Patriots Giants, where there's no life in that stadium, and I don't care about what's happening at all. Rams Cardinals is two bad teams that are going to be fun to watch. They've got playmakers, they've got studs, they've got guys who can make big plays. If you're going to watch Patriots Giants, rip your eyeballs out and put them in front of the Rams Cardinals game instead. I think that's going to be a much better football game. If you're going to watch bad teams play at all, at least watch bad teams with like star players who can make plays. Seriously. The Chiefs play the Raiders on Sunday. I think this is very interesting. Kansas City's coming off of a loss against Philly. And for the Raiders, it's their fourth game in a row with Antonio Pierce as head coach. Beating Kansas City would be a huge, huge play for Antonio Pierce and help him secure the job long-term in Vegas. I'm not sure if he can pull it off and beat Kansas City, but I'm really interested to see if the Raiders can win and beat Kansas City on Sunday. All right, 2 more segments left in today's show. It's been a long one. We got a little more to go. If you want to submit questions to the show, go to patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. Patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. It's $1 a month. You can donate more if you want to. Please do. It literally does pay my rent. But $1 a month gives you access to submit questions on Patreon. Here's my thing. I do not guarantee to read your question on the show. My only guarantee, I look at every single write-in with my eyeballs, and I pick the top couple to read on the show. Micah starts us off today. Micah says, "What's up, Zach?" AKA the podcasting plumber. Josh Dobbs would be jealous of that nickname. Anyway, what do you think the state of the teams would be right now if Carolina had taken CJ Stroud and Houston had taken Bryce Young? Also, what if the Colts took Will Levis and then Richardson fell to Seattle? Curious as for what your alternate universe looks like with this draft scenario instead. Thanks to your eyeballs for reading. I love CJ Stroud. I love him so much. If Carolina had done the crazy thing, which would have been viewed as crazy in April. If Carolina had drafted CJ Stroud over Bryce Young, they would have got attacked a ton. They don't have a good team. They don't have a good coach. They'd be losing. And they would be just mercilessly attacked, right? I don't know what Houston would be doing with Bryce Young. They're doing great with CJ Stroud. My inclination, my instinct is that the problem in Carolina has more to do with the team around Bryce Young and the coaching staff there than to do with Bryce Young himself. They're 1-9. They're awful. But can you imagine the optics in Carolina? Remember, everyone thought Bryce Young was going to be the number 1 pick. What if they didn't draft the consensus number 1 pick and drafted CJ Stroud instead, who's having a great year, much better than Bryce Young? But imagine how much worse people would think about Carolina if they had drafted the quarterback no one thought was the best quarterback and were losing. So I know it's hard to view it that way because we look at what's recently happening, think CJ Stroud is way better. Yeah, he looks amazing. But take yourself back to April. Go back to April when the draft happened. Can you imagine how much consternation there would have been, anger, ridicule, if Carolina had drafted CJ Stroud over Bryce Young? And then if they did that and were 1-9 to start the year, CJ Stroud would be getting crucified right now rather than being praised the way he is. So I think the team around the quarterback matters so much more than anyone talks about. If the Colts drafted Will Levis, I think it would have been fun. I like Will Levis a lot. Seattle drafting Anthony Richardson would have been. What's really sad, I think, to me, is Seattle passed on Will Levis. That's what's most interesting here. At this point, like Seattle with Anthony Richardson, I have no idea, man. He would have sat. He would have learned. He's really talented. He's injured. I don't know. We're so far into the hypothetical now. My brain can't create a narrative to understand what could have possibly happened. George writes in. George says, "Hello, Zach. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your new job. I find it very interesting talking about various professions and more specifically the trades. I myself am an airline pilot, and I constantly tell people that I want my son to become either a welder, plumber, or electrician. People always laugh when I say that and think I am joking, but I honestly believe those are great professions that are very defensive during a recession, are high in demand, and you're not burdened with insurmountable student loan debt. I believe that what you will see in the future is even more demand because young kids don't want to do those kind of jobs. Also, artificial intelligence will not make those jobs obsolete. So I believe now is a great opportunity to start training in one of those professions. What are your thoughts? I'm speaking with my actions. I became a plumber. I think the electricity could go out. We could all miserably survive without air conditioning. But you got to have running water. You need to shower. You need to go to the bathroom. Running water is like everything. So I think working in what's essentially the water industry, I feel great about it because I'm doing it. So, it's not very stable? YouTube. A couple of years ago, I made more money than I could even imagine on YouTube. Now I'm making $1,500 a month on YouTube. And that's not just YouTube ad revenue. That's every way the show can make money. That's Patreon sponsors and YouTube ad revenue all combined. So Strong Abandoned Sports is like a side project now. It makes enough money to do as a thing on the side. It's a side hustle now, right? It wasn't a couple years ago. And, I like the stability of the trades is the best thing to say next. I agree with you. One of the things that always fascinated me is airplane mechanic. I think that'd be really fun. And that's planes aren't going anywhere anytime soon. But water, I think, plumbing's it's dirty and it's hard. I had to take apart a water heater today. We had a water heater, 120-gallon water heater. Do you know how big those things are? Me and my partner were up a hill in Hawaii Kai. And you look down the backyard, you're like, that's not possible to carry that down. We had to use a Sawzall and a circular saw and literally cut this entire water heater apart. You pull off the outer shell, you pull out the insulation, which is fiberglass pieces in your hands, or, I wear gloves, but you've got fiberglass shavings all over your hands if you're not wearing gloves. And then you got to carry this insanely heavy galvanized steel, I guess, which we had to cut the thing in half with the water heater and then take the two half pieces, and the halves were still insanely heavy. So my job is a physical job. It's not easy. And if you're not, I played football, so for me, I actually enjoy the physicality of my job, but certainly it's not for the people who don't want to work hard. If you're a guy who wants to get by and do very little, don't get me wrong, I think HVAC was actually more demanding physically. A lot of plumbing is fixing little stuff, sinks, faucets, toilets. That's actually all pretty light and easy. But water heaters are they're a lot, man. They're not fun. They're very heavy. And my back was feeling it when I was carrying that. Half of the water heater that also had the insulation and outer shell removed was still hard as hell to carry. Jeffrey writes, and Jeffrey says, hello to Zach and your eyeballs. You mentioned in response to a previous question that I wrote that you're not so fond of analytics, to put it lightly. A follow-up question, what is the worst analytic out there that you feel gets brought up way too much, or one that just gets under your skin the most? Thanks as always. P.S. After watching Prime Vision for the whole year, Sam Schwartzstein is the worst. The worst stat is touchdown to interception ratio, because I think that interceptions often are not the quarterback's fault, and I talk about it. I do my best. You can't bring it up every time, but I try to, when I talk about interceptions, as much as I can, talk about them in the context of how they happened. But the worst stat by a mile is percentage of likelihood that a pass would be completed. How are you calculating that? They're this throw had a 3.2% chance of being completed. I'm based on what? What analytics do you have? You're telling me they made this throw 100 times and you can, it's no, how do you judge the percentage of something that's this specific player in this specific moment? You're just making stuff up, in my opinion. I'm I just hate the analytics are valuable, and then they go too far, and then they lose me. So this is my 2 cents. Colin writes in. Colin says, "Hey Zach, not my submission, but I am following up on something. You recently thought Josh Dobbs' proposed nickname, the Pocket Scientist, was a reference to a ruler. I think it was just a rhyme with rocket scientist. Rocket scientist plus pocket passer gives you pocket scientist. I did get that. I understood. I once I realized, Colin, I appreciate you writing in though, because it reminds me to bring it up. That is, I talked about pocket scientist last week. That's it. But Colin says, for the record, I still like Pastronaut better. I agree. Pastronaut is awesome. Pastronaut is way cooler than pocket scientist. So to me, I get rocket scientist, pocket scientist, but Pastronaut is like, Josh Dobbs, the Pastronaut, is so cool. What if Josh Dobbs, by the way, plays in the NFL, wins a lot of games, does well, and then when he retires, does become, what if Josh Dobbs goes to space when he's like 40, 37? How cool would that be? And to me, given his fame, his celebrity status now, given his qualifications as a rocket scientist, Josh Dobbs going to space, whether it's a commercial capacity or a promotion or actually a real thing with NASA, feels possible. And that's the most cool thing I've ever said about any NFL quarterback ever. Say what you want about Tom Brady. Dude's not a rocket scientist, right? In fact, no quarterback I can think of even has a chance where I go, that guy could go to space. And now Tom Brady might because of his fame, but Josh Dobbs could because he worked for NASA. Right? They might just say, hey, we need someone qualified. You're qualified. Oh, and also you probably would bring more attention to this thing, which we're trying to get money to raise for. So let's do it. Let's send Josh Dobbs to the moon. That really does feel like a possibility in my lifetime, and that's pretty dang cool. Colin writes in also, he says, hey, Zach, I recently listened to Sam Schwartzstein on Pardon My Take this week. Is that the Barstool? Is that the guys? Is that PFT and Big Cat, I think? I like Big Cat. I think they do good work. I've never listened to a full episode of their show, but I've seen clips enough to go like, these guys are good at their job. Anyway, Sam Schwartzstein was on Pardon My Take, and I was with you that he seemed like some nerd that never played, but it turns out he played center with Andrew Luck and Jim Harbaugh at Stanford, and actually seems to have been the main guy behind the XFL rulebook. His interview further proved that he's a true student of the game. Not much of a question, but I thought you'd find that interesting and that you might enjoy Prime Vision more if you listen to that interview. I will listen to that interview. That's interesting. I also want to say, though, he might be good in a setting where you're bouncing things off of somebody. Like you talk, someone responds, then you got to respond back. A lot of people are better in that setting, conversation, than they are carrying something by themselves. Sam Schwartzstein, he's rough to listen to by himself. It's fumbling over words, unsure what to say, the nervous tension. It's not enjoyable for me. It makes me feel bad. I don't like him on Prime Vision, but I will listen to him. I bet he's a good dude. He sounds like an interesting person to listen to talk about football a little bit. Joe writes, and Joe says, good morning, good afternoon, or whatever it is for you, Zach. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm recently reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep, Not Giving a F for the second time, and I wanted to know, as someone who also keeps it as their Bible, what's your biggest takeaway from it? Mine is the concept that you don't always have control over what happens to you, but you always have control over how you handle it. This is particularly, I'm struggling right now. I'm in a bad place. And I actually did just recently start reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F again. And within the first 2 pages, I was like, oh. And I immediately was like, I got so many things wrong in the last 6 months of my life, right? I was like, oh boy, I'm an idiot. I should have read this book. I probably should read the book every 2 weeks, straight up. To me, like, Mark Manson, the writer of this book, made me think about something. You got to figure out what your values are and what makes you happy. Not what your family likes, not what people around you approve of, certainly not what anyone on social media approves of. I have lived so much of my life doing what I think will make other people happy. What I think will give me validation. Especially when you're a YouTuber, when you're a podcast host. This was my full-time job for 5 years. And I had kind of a mental breakdown, I'm not going to lie to you. And I couldn't handle all of it. And I wondered so much for the last couple of years now, when I'm making a decision, am I doing it for me? Or am I making this decision because it's what people are going to approve of? Or because what social media thinks is cool? Or because it's a cool story? I live in this place. I do this job. I'm doing this thing now. when you tell it out loud to people, they go, wow. But it's like, but are you happy? Are you enjoying it? And that question, are you enjoying it? Are you, Zach Schaumler, are you happy? Not how does it sound, not how does it look on social media, but are you having a good time? Is this right for you, Zach? Not your dad, not your mom, not your friends, not your girlfriend, not people on Instagram, not people on Facebook, not your grandparents, not the people on Patreon that follow you, not the people that listen to your podcast by the thousands. No, are you doing the right thing for you? That has been, honestly, the single most difficult question to answer in my entire life. Yep. And I'm working on it. I'm really working on it. Another question, this is more from Joe. Joe says, I've heard that there might be interest between Bill Belichick and the Chargers if he leaves the Patriots after this year. And as a Chargers fan, I have mixed feelings. I think the hard-ass, tough-love mentality of Belichick in LA wouldn't be overly effective after the doormat that is Brandon Staley. Might be too mean, but he'd effectively be pulling a Tom Brady. That in their latter years, there are greener, warmer pastures outside of Foxborough with a defense with loaded talent. And they have an offensive coordinator with Kellen Moore that is currently committed to working with Herbert since a head coaching job for him anytime soon is unlikely. Sorry for the small novel of a write-in, but wanted to hear... you wanted more, and I wanted to help deliver. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you. Bill Belichick with the Chargers would be... I would watch that. I don't know if it would be good. I'm pretty turned off of Bill Belichick, and I think he would need a general manager, honestly. I think he would need to keep... I think... Is Tom Telesco right now? Tom Telesco? Tom Telesco is the general manager of the Chargers, so keep Tom Telesco. Let him pick the players. Now, collaborate with Bill Belichick, for sure. But Bill Belichick should not be a general manager, in my opinion. Let him be the head coach. Let him run the defense. Let Kellen Moore run the offense. That dog will hunt. That would work to me. That would be really interesting. That could actually be exactly what the Chargers need, in my opinion. But you have to tamp down the control of Bill Belichick. He can't control the roster. He can't control the offense. He's going to control the defense and be the head coach and oversee everything. Delegate to other people to do other things that he doesn't do as well because he's not great at general manager anymore. And you question how good was he? See, neither here nor there. But right now, last couple of years, Belichick has been awful as a general manager. So don't let him pick all the players and don't let him run the offense. Let Kellen Moore do that. But that would work. If you can limit the control Belichick has, which is tough because in New England, he's got all the power. But even take some power away from him, I think that would work. Personally, I want to see, a Kevin O'Connell type head coach in LA. But I would watch the experiment for a year of Bill Belichick in LA. That would be interesting to me. I would definitely watch that, and I would give it a shot. I would give it a chance to work. I'm just not sure it would, but it'd be interesting for sure. Lionart writes in. Lionart says, "Hey Zach, I heard you were disappointed with the lack of write-ins, so I have one for you that is about football, just not relevant football." Lionart says, a little under 2 years ago, I wrote into your show about asking for advice on trying to play JUCO football after being out of the game for 9 years. After sitting on the bench 90% of my first year, I filled in a few plays here and there whenever there was someone that had to come out, but I never played a whole game. I won the starting job at center going into year 2. You did. That's crazy. I had a terrible first few drives to open our season, and I got benched after the first quarter. Then towards the end of our second game, the other center suffered a torn ACL, so I filled in for the rest of the game. They looked around for a few other solutions, but I eventually won the job a second time after getting benched. I went on to start all but one game the entire year, and I only gave up 2 sacks. Neither of them were in our conference games. Lionart had 0 penalties of any kind, played every snap in practice and in the game, never got hurt, never missed a meeting or practice. My team brought our program its first winning record in 10 years after starting off 1-4 and losing our starting quarterback. To put the cherry on top, I was voted second team all-conference earlier this year. I never thought I would get that far, and it felt so good to get that weight off my shoulders. Your show usually revolves around talking about the very best football players in the world, and I'm light years away from that. But I hope you enjoyed reading about my little corner of the football world. Lionheart. That's what it's about, man. I hope you enjoyed that journey. I'm kind of getting goosebumps, actually. I get this rush to my head. My forehead usually gets goosebumps, actually, which is weird, I know. But like my arms get a little bit, and then I feel it in my forehead. It's so cool, man. I just can't say enough how like amazing of a story that is. And I hope you did it for you, not for the story. But that is an amazing story. And one that, Lionheart, we need to get in touch because you should come on the show probably and talk about that at some point, whether it's this show or another show I'm starting or or another thing I'm doing in the future. You're so compelling here that I would like to meet you in person. The same way, Jake, you're out there, got your GD. Like, I think the best thing about this whole thing I've done, Strong Man in Sports, this little weird thing in the internet, is the people I've met through it. Logan, this guy Logan, I met him in Hilo, Hawaii, listener of the show. In our Patreon league now, we text each other all the time. He's like a real friend of mine. We play Fortnite together, me and Logan. And I've been really lonely, actually, recently. I've been going through some stuff. Logan has no idea how much he's been helping me, actually, just by talking to me. Right? Lionheart, I want to be your friend. Like, you're a quality dude. That's a real journey. And I want to interview you and hear about what you learned from this journey and how you became a better person. Because that's what it's about, man, is challenging yourself in life is not I don't think it's the goal, right? Often the challenges we take on are either for pursuit of something, for a reason. I'm taking on plumbing right now. It's a challenge for me for sure. Or it's something that you get dealt to deal with. But either way, I so admire people that take on a challenge head on and really, really fight. And whether you had worked or not, you did end up becoming the starting center eventually. I mean, you won the job, then you lost it, but you fought through all of it. You had a good attitude. You showed up to practice every day, never got hurt. There's got to be a lot. Lionheart, I admire you, man. And the amount of things you can take from this journey are going to help you the rest of your life. In your marriage, in your career, in parenting, everything you want to do the rest of your life. You will always have this journey to reflect on and the things you learned from it and took away from it. I hope that's the thing you get from it, Lionheart. I think this show is amazing, actually. I'm really proud of it. I wish that millions of people listen to the show so I could do it as my full-time job. I really do. But this story, Lionheart, this write-in on Patreon is one of my favorite moments ever to happen on this show. I think that's incredible, man. And I just thank you for sharing your story. Please let's connect in person. I don't know where, I would imagine you live in California. Maybe I'm wrong. Someday when I have money to travel, I would love to take a flight out to you and make a video with you. Like and maybe we do an internet interview over I've done interviews remotely. I'd love to have you on to do that. But on top of that, I'd love to make a vlog where I go visit you and see you and shake your hand, give you a hug. Like we tell this story on camera. It's so compelling, man. It really is. It really, really is. And I'm kind of moved here. I really just want to. It's damn cool. Thanks for sharing, man. Landon writes in. Landon says, "What up, Zach? Just curious about your Madden 11 franchise and how it's going. Who's your quarterback and how many Super Bowls have you won? Do you still play?" No. I have my Xbox 360 and Xbox One are set up right here. I haven't touched I play Fortnite occasionally because I'm sad. I need a distraction. I'm actually I've got a book series that I got to give to my ex, so I want to finish them before I move. I got to finish the books before I got to give them back to her. And so, what do we say? I'm just going to leave that in. People pick it up or not. My free time doesn't go to Madden right now. And I'm not sure if it will for a while. Devin writes in. Devin says, "Howdy, Zach Thenny Richardson. I have a few life questions unrelated to each other. Number one, do you use ChatGPT at all? If so, what role does it play in your life? Number two, what's the best, most meaningful date you've ever been on? And number three, in your opinion, do you think there are situations where getting back with your ex does make sense? Hope you're doing well, as always. I look forward to the next show, Devin." Let's go from 3, 2 to 1. Actually, let's start with 1. Do I use ChatGPT at all? No, I've never used it. I don't even know how. The thing I'd like to do is make AI art, just because I think it'd be fun to see like what kind of weird combinations I could make. But I can't even. I've actually tried to figure that out, and I can't. And I think you need to pay for it. I'm not paying you money to do that. So I don't know. I don't have the money to make AI art. I guess I'm too poor. But I also like don't ever. I don't have any idea why I would use ChatGPT for anything. I write. Part of my joy in life is writing. I love writing. I really love writing. I write all the time. I fill up notebook after notebook. Like these composition notebooks, I have hundreds of them in my room, and I fill up like one a week. Like that's how much I write, literally. So I would never take away the joy, and I think the skill I have in writing and give it to an AI. That would be a waste of everything to me. Most meaningful date I've ever been on. Oh, man. Probably when I went to Canada. I went to a really cool trip this past summer in Canada. And it was, I felt really loved. And it was really fun. And I felt really cared for. And meant a lot to me, man. That's the most meaningful date I've ever been on was my trip to Canada. And Kenyatta. It was a good time. In your opinion, do you think there are situations where getting back with an ex does make sense? I do. If the person has changed and shows that maybe the reasons why the relationship didn't work could work now. Something like that. It's rare, though. I think a lot of people, it's rare for someone to do the hard work of personal growth. I in my life, I've only ever gotten back together with one ex. And I think it's a very rare thing, but it does happen. And you read stories occasionally where like, yeah, we took a time apart, we figured it out, and I think that'd be interesting. Anyway, Devin, thanks for writing it. Lars writes in. Lars says, "Hey Zach, before asking my question, just wanted to say I love your show and your approach to your show. As a 50-year-old, thank you for listening, Lars. I love you, man. That's awesome. I've learned that compartmentalizing life is a fool's errand. Your life is a patchwork of all your experiences and therefore reflects in your activities. That you embrace this in your coverage of football by incorporating your trials and tribulations and your acknowledgement of the human side of athletes is ahead of the curve and refreshing. Thank you. Now for the question. Ever since Daniel Jones tore his ACL, I've been watching the top quarterback prospects. Everyone seems to think that it's going to be between Drake May, Caleb Williams, and all the top picks, but I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the quarterback that got away in this draft. Am I crazy? Actually, no. I think that's actually really interesting. Jaden Daniels, as a quarterback I've been talking about for years, he's so talented. When you have a guy who's physically really gifted, who can do stuff that other quarterbacks can't do, throwing the football, running the football, which is such a valuable skill that not everyone has at all. You give Jaden Daniels to the right coach. Minnesota, right? If Minnesota drafted Jaden Daniels like 17th overall, whatever they're going to be, maybe late in the first round, it's a home run. It's like such a home run, it's not even funny. Green Bay, right? The two quarterbacks I think that are most underappreciated in the draft right now, Cameron Ward at Washington State is like this hidden gem in the Blues that no one knows about, man. And Jaden Daniels is going to win the Heisman Trophy and not viewed as a number one pick. And I think he's more talented than Bo Nix. He's more talented than Michael Penix Jr. He's been more successful than Drake May. And a coach is going to look at Jaden Daniels and go, I can work with this kid. His skill set, his work ethic. It reminds me of Jalen Hurts, actually, coming out of Oklahoma to the Eagles. They looked at Jalen Hurts and were like, this kid has something, we're going to work and figure it out. So, yeah, man, I love it. Jaden Daniels is I would almost say, because he's a bit underrated, the most interesting prospect in college football right now. Because, like, you're right. He goes to a good coach. He goes to Green Bay with Matt LaFleur. He goes to Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. Brian Dable with the Giants. What could he do? Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. With a good coach who knows how to use his skill set, Jaden Daniels is a home run NFL quarterback. So, but that's most quarterbacks, right? A lot of these guys are talented. They need the right coach. Jaden Daniels certainly does too. Gabriel writes in. Gabriel says, or this is just Gabe, not Gabriel. Gabe says, hello, Zach. This comment might be a bit of a bummer, but I wanted to leave space just to write it all out, and hopefully you can give me some of that killer Schaumler wisdom. You mentioned in one of your previous episodes that there are things that remind you of your ex, like one thing that she always said, and I appreciate how you were open about your relationship and your current status, because I'm going through a bit of a rough time. I want to clarify something here. I that was talking about an old ex-girlfriend, not a recent one, and I try to be, as much as I'm learning now. I have to be more guarded with how much of my life I share publicly. It's a lesson for me that I'm figuring out. Gabe says, I broke up with my girlfriend about a few months ago, and somehow it is only getting harder because I'm forgetting about all the reasons that we broke up and that I'm only remembering the good. She was perfect for me, except for the fact that she was jealous and overprotective, where it got me to the point where I felt anxiety about doing anything without her, as she would always be worried that other girls, even if girls weren't involved, would worry about other girls. It's also hard because I was the one to break up with her, and I feel like I can't talk to anyone, and I'm not allowed to be sad. It was my decision. However, if she was just a bit more mature and maybe not so bipolar, we could have had a great, long-lasting relationship. How do you deal with losing someone who is everything you ever wanted in someone? I also feel like I might just be lonely, and that's what's causing me to feel this way. Have you ever dealt with anything like that? Thanks for taking the time to read my long write-in and giving me space to vent. Go Hawks. Gabe. Gabriel, man. Gabe. First of all, you broke up with her. I'm sure you had a reason. In fact, you say overprotective, but overbearing sounds like. I'm forgetting about all the reasons that we broke up. She was perfect for me, except, I think in life, nobody's perfect. Nobody. You gotta find the person who has the negatives you're willing to deal with. And that you can love them in spite of them and maybe even come to appreciate their quirks. I think quirks is better than flaws. It's a better way to put that. But you say maybe she was a bit more mature and bipolar. I don't know how old you are, man. And I personally am very lonely right now. The best thing you can do is support yourself with people who love you, and surround yourself with people who love you and support you. And for me, that's family and that's friends. And so when you're having a hard time, your mind plays tricks on you, man. Like you get really bent out of shape and struggle with the relationship you maybe ended, something you did end, right? But then you get lonely and you're alone in your thoughts, and the person you talk to every day isn't giving you attention, and it's really hard. And so I would encourage you to, rather than maybe going right back to your ex, go be with your family. If you have family. And if you don't have family, go be with your friends. And if you don't have friends, join the Strong Opinion Sports Discord and you'll make friends. I really think that a lot of we humans, I'm someone who I self-isolate all the time. I really struggle with letting people into my life and letting myself trust other people. Do not be alone and by yourself when you're going through a hard time. It sounds like you are. Even though you ended it. I called off an engagement one time, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I called off an engagement, and I was really sad, and it ruined my life. It ruined my life. I let it ruin my life, but it ruined my life. And I felt like I couldn't be sad about it, but I was. And that's okay. And so, man, I just encourage you, whoever your people are, whatever that means to you, family, friends, whatever, go be with them. Talk to them. If you're far away from them, call them. Sometimes a phone call. I call my best friend's mom. That's my best friend's mom is the woman I call for advice. The mom advice that I want, and the one who I want when I need counsel and comfort. We talk on the phone for like 2 hours, and that's much needed for me. I play Fortnite with my friends. I talk to my friends a lot, and being with your friends and family is huge when you're having a hard time. And that's something that most of my life when I've struggled, I've been far away from them. Been on a road trip, been in Hawaii twice, been in college, kind of avoiding them actually. So learn from my mistakes and don't self-isolate when you're struggling. Go be with people who love you and believe in you and want to care for you and unconditionally love you. That's everything. And if you ended the relationship, my instinct is to tell you that without knowing you or your relationship, you ended it. And you probably had a good reason. I wouldn't second guess yourself, man. Maybe you made the worst mistake of your life. Sometimes we do that too. But don't be in a hurry to go rush back. And you should spend time with your family and find company. And don't just fill a void because you're lonely. Something that I think even myself need to hear that sometimes. It's funny, I can say that all, but I'm terrible at following my own advice. Josh writes in, Josh says, yo, Zachary, it's clear that CJ Stroud is the best rookie out of last year's draft class so far. Before the year started, you said you weren't sure how well he would do, especially with the Houston Texans organization. What do you think you missed with CJ Stroud? Thanks for reading, and thank you for continuing to do the show on top of working your new job. Your listeners appreciate it. Thanks for pointing that out, man. I've worked 40 hours this week already. Like, it's Tuesday. I mean, my week starts Saturday, so it's a bit, but I've going, man. It's been a long couple days. It's only Tuesday. Jesus. My God. So yeah, I'm a bit busy. Thanks for pointing that out. Josh, with CJ Stroud, the thing that I couldn't have known without talking to him is that he's so mature. Like the way he recruited, he told Houston to draft Tank Dell, who's been a home run for them. He's a great leader. And he played really well against Georgia in college, that game. I remember that was a game I was like, oh, he can do that? He could work in the NFL. And I never had doubts about him. I never had a problem with CJ Stroud. My problem was what was around him in Houston. I didn't believe in that. But what's very clear now is he got a great coach. And even so, he's not much of a runner, and I thought that would hurt him. I thought not being able to run the football, and not that he can't, but he doesn't, would hurt him. But no, the dude is surgical. Like, CJ Stroud is making incredible decisions. He's beating blitzes, getting the ball out quickly, being very accurate. The contrast between CJ Stroud and Kenny Pickett is like miles and miles and miles apart. It's wild. And you can't predict how a guy is going to handle those kind of things, honestly. You can talk to them. I think that's the thing. Like, as a draft evaluator, I almost want to just never do it again. It's fun, like armchair evaluating. And I've done some videos that have gotten lots and lots of views for my opinions. But how can I make a call without sitting down and talking to them? Right? Like, if I could sit down and talk to the guy, get a sense of him as a person, how he carries himself, maybe how he handles a group setting, seeing how he like works with his players. And then also sitting down and being like, hey, when they blitz, what do you do? Like, do you have answers on third down? To like grill them about their understanding of the game. Then I could make a really informed decision based on the film, based on like, oh man, I'd love to be Gruden's QB camp. I would love to like have quarterbacks come visit me. We watch the film together. We talk about their flaws. We talk about their mistakes. We see them in the huddle. Like, it'd be amazing. It would be so great. I mean, if I could ever get access, no one's going to give me access to that. But that's the right way to do that process. And I think, actually, if I got access to do that, I'd be very accurate. And I've been very accurate even without that at times. But my hit rate would be really high, and I would have a really good feel of what's going to work. I was never a great quarterback, but I know the game and I know the quarterback position very well. And I would, maybe that's my sales pitch. Let me interview quarterbacks coming out into college and make it into content. Although I don't think the content would help them. So I don't think there's not a market for that, because why would the players agree to it if sometimes it's going to expose their weaknesses? Right? The problem with everything is it has to be PR and marketing. It can't just be real and authentic and honest evaluation. Because sometimes when you look for an answer, you find a negative one, and people don't like that, and it hurts them. It hurts them financially. It hurts them appearance. It hurts everything. And our unwillingness to look in the mirror at negative things about ourselves, I think, keeps us from a lot of really compelling content. That is why, actually, my favorite, I think I realized this. I was talking to my partner today. My partner's this awesome Filipino guy who, like, he's never left the island. I know he went to New York once. So he was left the island, but he's never lived anywhere but Hawaii. And I love him so much, man. In fact, someone actually asked if there any like Hawaiian traditions for Thanksgiving. According to him, it's go to Popeyes and get Popeyes Thanksgiving like turkey dinner. I think it's actually chicken, but they do like a Thanksgiving thing at Popeyes. That's what him and his family do, and my coworkers seem to do that. They go to Popeyes or Jollibee. But again, I'm the only Howley guy in a company of 60 people. I'm the only white guy at my company. No. There's a guy named Ben. One guy named Ben. And then me. We're only Howleys, right? Howleys, look it up if you want. Anyway, the heck was I saying? What I was saying was Anthony Bourdain is my favorite content creator probably ever. Because he's real. He tells you how it is, good or bad. If he has a bad time, he'll tell you. And it makes me want to have like a weekly Bourdain night where I watch Anthony Bourdain and revisit it because he was a treasure, man. Let's end the show today. By the way, if you're hearing, I am struggling. I'm not. If you want to Google it, Anthony Bourdain, you'll learn how he died. I'm not anywhere near that. So if you're worried about me, don't worry. I'm okay. I'm just doing things to take care of myself and acknowledging that I'm going through a hard time. And I think that that's what you should do as a content creator, right? Like, because Instagram isn't a real place and we're not always happy all the time. And you can be happy and still be struggling, actually, too. I enjoy my life here and enjoy the things I'm doing. Let's end the show now with fantasy football. This week in fantasy football, the Plumbing Pringles won. Your boy Zach, I changed my team name to Plumbing Pringles as I open the app to look at my stats. My team won 130.52 to 109 flat. So I won with 130 points. Florida man regrets hubris. That's his new team name. He changed it. Had 109 points. I won, baby. It's awesome. And here is how I won. My quarterback, Brock Purdy, had 26.72 points. He was 21 for 25 passing and 333 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 carries for 14 yards. I traded for Brock Purdy this week. Home run. Dynamite move. Great play for me. Great trade. Let's revisit this trade. Let's review what I did. My recent trades, I traded Isaiah Pacheco, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and the Cowboys defense to Jake for Khalil Herbert, Brock Purdy, and Jordan Addison. Isn't it interesting? The minute I trade for a quality quarterback, your boy starts winning. Brock Purdy, baby. I love it. 3 touchdowns. I feel like I can rock with Brock Purdy the rest of the year. Very happy with that. What a great move by me. His quarterback, Jalen Hurts, had 19 points, 14 for 22 passing, 150 yards, an interception, and then 2 rushing touchdowns with 12 carries and 29 yards. So Jalen Hurts got outscored by my boy Brock Purdy. I won the quarterback matchup. At running back, I narrowly won the running back 1 matchup. Jahmyr Gibbs, my running back, at 21.5 points, 8 carries, 36 yards, a touchdown running. He also had 6 catches for 59 yards. Joe Mixon, Florida man's running back, had 21 points on 16 carries, 69 yards. Nice, baby. 5 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown catch, but I narrowly won that. I lost the running back 2 matchup, although my hands were tied, man. I didn't have a lot going for me. Hunter Henry, my tight end, was on the bench. Zach Moss had a bye week. Khalil Herbert was coming back from an injury. I didn't know how well he was going to do. So Kareem Hunt, my number 2 running back, had 12 carries for 36 yards and 3 catches for a yard. He had 6.7 points. David Montgomery, the other running back in Detroit, was Florida man's running back, number 2. He had 17.8 points with 12 carries, 76 yards, a touchdown, and 2 catches for 22 yards. So, interesting there. Nico Collins is my number 1 receiver. He had 7 catches for 65 yards. He brought in 13.5 points. Florida man's number 1 receiver, Stephon Diggs, had a bad day. 4 catches for 27 yards and a massive win over the Jets, but he didn't do anything. He had 6.7 points. Then here's where it gets crazy. Calvin Ridley, who I thought was a home run draft pick. Calvin Ridley, oh, baby. He really delivered for me this week. Calvin Ridley had 31.1 points. He had a carry for 18 yards. He also had 7 catches for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's why I won, man. Calvin Ridley and Brock Purdy delivered this week. He had 31.1 points. Jahan Dotson, the number 1 wide receiver for my opponent, had 11.3 points, 3 catches for 23 yards, and a touchdown. My tight end, Dalton Kincaid, had 6 catches for 46 yards. His tight end, Tyler Conklin, had 3.9 points. So Dalton Kincaid brought me 10.6 points. His tight end brought him 3.8 points with 2 catches for 18 yards. I guess we go down the list. Jordan Addison, my flex player, had 3 catches for 44 yards. Didn't do a lot, had 7.4 points. His flex player, Jaylen Warren, had 9 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown, plus 3 more catches for 16 yards. He brought in 23.5 points. So I lost a number of matchups. I lost a running back matchup. I lost a flex matchup. I did win at kicker. My kicker, Harrison Butker, had a field goal and 2 extra points, brought in 6 points. His kicker, Nick Folk, had 2 extra points for 2 points. My defense, the Browns defense, had 10 points allowed and 3 sacks, but only brought in 7 points. His defense at Minnesota had 3 points with 21 points allowed, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Here's why I won. He left Zach Charbonnet on the bench, and he left Christian Watson on the bench. He lost by 21 points, roughly, and I think that would have been the difference. He would have won if he'd started Zach Charbonnet and Christian Watson at receiver. But you can never know that, right? If I'd started Jake Moody at kicker instead of my other kicker, Harrison Butker, I would have won. So, like, you can't live that way, I don't think. I'm just happy to win. If you look at the standings right now in our league, your boy Zach, here's how the league standings go. Number 1 is 24 Ass ETN season at 8-3, reference to ETN, the running back in Jacksonville. Number 2 is Alvin and the Chipmunks, my buddy Logan. He's 8-3 as well. Number 3 is Jackson Prison TikTok. They're 7-4. And 4th, they've got Quarterback Hospital, Sam Colburn's team, who had Aaron Rodgers to start the year. They're 7-4. How'd that get up there? Jake's team is 6-5. They're in 5th. And 4th, you've got Starmore's A New Hope. They're 6-5 as well. The Plumbing Pringles, baby, in 7th, which I believe is a playoff spot right now. We're 6-5. And 8th, you've got X gave it to Zach. He's still on that. Andy beat me like a while ago now. He's still got me in his name, which I take as an honor. He's 6-5. In 9th, they've got Bustin' on Cousins, which is heinous and hilarious. They're 6-5. In 10th, you've got Florida Man Regrets Hubris. He's 5-6. Just horrible, man. Phoenix's team. No, Jacob's team. Oh my gosh, they're 5-6. Turn Down for Watt is 5-6. They're 12th. Touchdown Jesus is 13th at 4-7. And 14th, we've got Children of Analytics at 3-8. The Jordan Rules are 3-8 at 15th. No effing way. Phoenix's team is 3-8. And there was someone I wanted to look at. Jackson's Prison TikTok had a brutal loss this week. Let's go look at it. He lost 103-93. And you know how he lost? The worst thing that happened to him, his number 1 receiver, A.J. Brown, had 1 catch for 8 yards. If A.J. Brown has a traditional game, he doesn't lose by 10 points. He probably wins. But A.J. Brown brought in 1.8 points for him. That is horrifying. On top of that, Romeo Dobbs was on his bench, scoring 16.3 points. If A.J. Brown doesn't suck, he didn't suck. He had a quiet game. They still won. He's happy. He doesn't suck. He's a great player. Or if he starts Romeo Dobbs instead of A.J. Brown, which would have been insane. Let's be clear, first of all. I mean, I understand why you started who you did. You can't predict Romeo Dobbs is going to go off. But you could have won, and you missed out. That's painful. And then what happened to my man? Let's find. I can't find it. I want to find my man. Did he not play? That's not possible. 24/7. I'm trying to find the name of the guy. I can't find anywhere. Phoenix's team. Oh, Phoenix team. No effing way. They won this week. Oh, they beat Jackson. So, Phoenix, good job. You won a game finally. The high scoring players this week. Brock Purdy was second highest scoring quarterback. That's my quarterback. That's awesome. At running back, Saquon Barkley had 30 points, 14 carries, 83 yards, plus 4 catches for 57 yards and 2 touchdown catches. Calvin Ridley, baby. Number 1 receiver in fantasy football this week was my receiver, Calvin Ridley, with 31.1 points. The number 1 defense was the Giants defense, actually, with 3 interceptions against Washington, 19 points allowed, 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, a touchdown. That's wild. And yeah, that's really all of note. I look ahead to my game this next week. It's week 11, so week 12. My game next week, I play Rhett's team, touchdown Jesus. I'm 6-5. I need 1 more win to make the playoffs. I got to secure my spot. He's got Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, Derrick Henry at running back, Raheem Mostert, Chris Godwin, Devontae Adams, Logan Thomas at tight end, Aaron Jones, who's injured, is his flex right now. It's probably going to change. He's got the Lions defense playing against Green Bay. I'm going to make a change here. So let's look at my team right now. Change my lineup. So because of, I'll put Jake Moody as my kicker, the 49ers kicker, like that idea. Oh, I don't know, man. I'm going to stick with Harrison Butker because they play the Raiders and they play in a dome and it feels safe to me. I'm not sure. Seattle in maybe, look, Seattle says it's going to be warm and like sunny on Thursday for Thanksgiving, but I lived in Seattle. Is it ever really this time of year not raining? And I think I'm going to stay pat with everything else in my lineup, actually. I thought I was going to make a change here, but I actually am going to leave it. So got Brock Purdy, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kareem Hunt, Nico Collins, Calvin Ridley, Dalton Kincaid, Jordan Addison, Harrison Butker, and the best defense in football, the Cleveland Browns defense, who has not scored as many points as the Cowboys defense, who I traded away, but they're still a great defense, and they're going to perform well. They're playing against, who do they play this week? I want to remember. I remember, but I lost it in my head. They play Denver, so that'll be interesting. Okay, we'll see how I do next week, but I won, and if I win again this week, I'm locked in with a playoff spot, which would be really, really cool. Guys, I love you. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to a heartfelt, fun, good episode of Strong Opinion Sports. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you next week. And bam, we are